Imagine a world shrouded in a gentle, silver mist, where the sun's warmth feels distant and muted, as if filtered through an invisible veil. The air is crisp and carries a faint, earthy scent. A mix of ash, damp soil, and the faint aroma of smoke from fires long ago. In this quiet, almost untouched landscape, humans wander curious, cautious, and endlessly resilient. But what if I told you that around 70,000 years ago, our ancestors faced a sudden, chilling trial, a volcanic winter so vast and powerful it altered the very climate of the Earth tonight? We will explore not just the events of that time, but the delicate, persistent ways humans survived, adapted, and carried on. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself standing at the edge of a sprawling valley, where jagged mountains loom in the distance. You can hear the soft crackling of a fire nearby, the occasional murmur of voices round it. But above all, there's a profound silence. The kind that stretches endlessly and makes every whisper of wind feel sacred. This was the world our distant relatives inhabited, not with written history, but with a rich tapestry of stories, gestures, and shared survival. Perhaps you wonder, how did humans endure such a dramatic shift in their environment? How did they cope when the skies darkened with ash and food became scarce? These are the questions that pull us gently into the past, inviting both curiosity and awe. And as we ponder them tonight, we can imagine the faces of those early humans, eyes alert, minds active, hearts steady against the uncertainty of the cold months to come. Let's pause and consider the landscapes they navigated. Wide forests stretched in every direction, punctuated by rivers that glimmered like silver ribbons under a pale sun. Giant herds of animals roamed freely, their tracks leaving stories in the mud. The earth itself seemed alive, constantly shifting, the wind whispering secrets through the trees and over the plains. In this environment, humans were small but not powerless. Their ingenuity, cooperation, and deep connection to nature were their most essential tools. We don't have written records from this time, of course. What we know comes from careful study, layers of volcanic ash that have preserved fragments of bones, stone tools shaped by patient hands, and the faint traces of shelters tucked away in caves or rock overhangs. Scientists have painstakingly reconstructed these snapshots of life, piecing together a story that is both humbling and inspiring. They reveal a world where humans were not simply surviving, they were observing, experimenting, and learning in real time. Every spark from a fire, every hunt, every step across frozen ground was a testament to resilience. But let's return to the idea of a volcanic winter. Imagine the sudden darkness descending, as though the sky itself had pulled a heavy, grey blanket over the earth. Temperatures dropped, sunlight dimmed, and the familiar rhythm of seasons was disrupted. Rivers might have slowed, forests shifted, and food sources that humans relied upon could vanish in an instant. How do you think you might react if the world you knew changed so drastically overnight? Our ancestors faced this not once, but repeatedly over millennia, and their survival depended on something we sometimes overlook today: connection. Connection to the land, connection to each other, and connection to knowledge passed down through generations. It is likely that humans clustered in smaller groups, sharing warmth, food, and strategies for hunting and gathering. They listened to the wind and the movements of animals, learned the subtle cues of weather, and adjusted their plans accordingly. In this sense, survival was not merely a physical task, it was a deeply social and intellectual one. Perhaps a parent whispered to a child the secret of which berries were safe to eat, or an elder demonstrated how to sharpen a spear just so, ensuring the family could hunt successfully. And yet, life during this time was not just about struggle. There was wonder, too. Imagine stepping outside after a snowfall of fine volcanic ash. each flake glimmering faintly in the dim light. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of a fire ants warmth after a long day of tracking prey or gathering roots, the laughter of children echoing softly in the evening. These small moments, fragile yet enduring, were the thread that wove together the fabric of human life, even amid uncertainty. There was beauty, and the human spirit found ways to recognize and cherish it. As we begin this journey tonight, consider a gentle question. What does it truly mean to survive? Is it merely to live, to continue breathing day by day? Or is it, perhaps, to persist with curiosity, care, and ingenuity, finding ways to adapt to even the harshest challenges? Our ancestors, facing the daunting shadows of volcanic winters, embody this second kind of survival. They remind us that resilience is both practical and deeply human, a blend of skill, knowledge, and an enduring sense of hope. We will wander slowly through this story together. We will look at the evidence left behind in the soil and stone, consider the theories of scientists and anthropologists, and imagine the lives of those early humans as they navigated a world transformed. Along the way, we might ask ourselves, how would I act if the skies darkened and the world grew cold? What small innovations, rituals, or connections would I rely upon to endure? These questions are gentle, reflective invitations, guiding us to empathize with a past that feels both distant and familiar. In the next few moments, allow yourself to sink deeper into this landscape. Picture the soft hiss of volcanic ash settling on the ground, the muted colors of a world paused in quiet transformation. Imagine humans moving carefully, out with purpose, noticing the smallest details, a cracked rock that might serve as a tool, a cluster of nuts that will nourish them through the coming weeks, the distant call of a bird signaling change. Every detail matters. Every moment of attention is an act of survival. As our minds drift slowly through this scene, remember that this is a story not just of hardship, but of wonder. It is about ingenuity, connection, and the gentle rhythm of life unfolding. Even in times of uncertainty, in this calm, reflective space, let yourself feel both the fragility and the strength of humanity, the delicate balance between challenge and adaptation. For in the quiet perseverance of humans 70,000 years ago, we find echoes of our own resilience, reminders that even in the darkest times, life finds a way forward. And so, with soft curiosity and a mindful breath, we step gently into the past, ready to explore the landscapes, people, and events of a volcanic winter that challenged the very essence of human survival. Let us move slowly, observing, imagining, and learning, as though we were walking alongside those early humans, feeling the cool air on our skin, listening to the wind through the trees, and sensing the quiet pulse of life that persists even amid ash and cold. As we continue to wander through time, let us pause and imagine the world as it existed 70,000 years ago. The earth was alive in ways both familiar and strange. Vast forests stretched in endless swathes, the leaves whispering softly in the wind, while open plains invited the movement of herds of animals, each hoofle marking a rhythm older than any song we know. The sun, though dimmed by distant volcanic activity, still cast a gentle light across the land, painting shadows that danced like silent memories on the ground. Humans at this time were not the bustling urban creatures we see today. They were nomadic, moving with the seasons, with the needs of survival guiding every step. Their homes were often temporary rock shelters, small caves, or the simple structures they could build with branches and hides. And yet, even in these simple spaces, there was life. Fire crackled, tools lay within reach, and humans gathered together in small groups, speaking in voices that carried stories, warnings, and laughter. One can almost hear the low murmur of conversation, punctuated by occasional gestures, the way hands communicate when words are few but meaning is rich. Archaeologists tell us that these people were remarkable observers of their environment. They noted the behaviors of animals, the changes in weather, the subtle signs that indicated where water or edible plants might be found. Imagine a person kneeling beside a stream, fingers tracing the tracks of a small deer, eyes catching the shimmer of fish beneath the surface. Every observation mattered. Every detail could mean the difference between nourishment and hunger, between life and hardship. And it was not a world without challenge. The climate was variable, shifting gradually yet sometimes suddenly, influenced by distant volcanic eruptions and other natural forces. Imagine waking to find the ground covered with a fine layer of ash, the sun hidden behind a grey haze, and the air carrying a faint metallic scent. It would be a world that demanded patience and careful adaptation, where humans needed to think ahead, plan, and cooperate. Yet, even amid uncertainty, there were moments of tenderness and care. Imagine a small group huddled together for warmth, sharing the sparse food they had gathered, telling stories of hunts, of ancestors, of dreams that only they could understand. Perhaps one person shows another how to strike flint to make a spark, or how to wrap meat in leaves to keep it from spoiling. These small acts of teaching, sharing, and protecting were lifelines, connecting individuals not just to each other, but to the generations that would come after. The landscapes themselves were full of subtle beauty. Picture a river winding like silver through a valley, its surface reflecting the pale sky, and the soft ripple of water carrying the faint scent of damp earth. Forests breathed with life, the rustle of leaves punctuated by the distant call of birds, the skitter of small mammals through underbrush. Even in times of scarcity, there was wonder, the sharp brilliance of a morning frost, the glint of a stone tool catching the light, the way firelight dances on cave walls. Every detail was noticed, remembered, and often shared, forming a quiet intimacy with the world that we rarely experience today. As we think about these early humans, we might wonder, how did they understand their surroundings? How did they make sense of a world so much larger, so much more unpredictable than themselves? Part of the answer lies in their creativity. They painted on cave walls, etched patterns into stone, and crafted tools with precision that reflected not just need, but thoughtfulness. Every crafted spear, every carefully chosen hide, was a product of observation, practice, and a willingness to learn from the environment itself. Consider the seasons, too, and how humans moved with them. Spring brought new growth and the return of animals, a time for gathering fresh plants and planning hunts. Summer offered abundance, but also the work of preservation, drying meat, storing nuts, and ensuring supplies for the colder months. Autumn warned of the approaching chill, and winter, especially a volcanic winter, was a test of endurance, patience, and ingenuity. It is remarkable to think that humans navigated these cycles without modern instruments, relying solely on their senses, memory, and the shared knowledge of their community. And yet, these observations and routines were not solely practical, they were profoundly human. There was curiosity and reflection. Perhaps questions floated silently through their minds. What will tomorrow bring? How can we survive the cold months ahead? Is there more to life than merely finding food and shelter? These quiet reflections, even if unspoken, were part of what it meant to be human. The volcanic winter, looming somewhere in the near future, would test every aspect of this delicate balance. But before that moment arrived, humans moved through a world rich with observation, Ingenuity and connection. They learned from the smallest details a bent branch indicating the presence of an animal, a footprint in mud revealing movement patterns, the taste of roots confirming which were edible. And in these careful attentions, they laid the groundwork for survival, demonstrating a deep, intuitive understanding of the rhythms of life as we drift further into this world. Let us consider the possibilities. How did humans share knowledge across distances, across generations? Perhaps a story was passed along a path, spoken softly beside a fire, becoming legend and instruction in equal measure. Maybe a parent demonstrated hunting techniques to a child, or a group worked together to carry food back to their shelter. Their coordination and cooperation reflecting an intelligence honed not in isolation, but in community. These acts, ordinary yet profound, allowed humans to endure challenges that would have overwhelmed a solitary individual. We might also ponder the sensory experiences of life in this era, the cool, slightly damp air of the morning, the warmth of firelight against skin, the sound of water trickling over stones. The taste of gathered berries or roasted meat. These sensations were anchors, connecting humans to the present moment even as they prepared for an uncertain future. The volcanic winter, when it came, would shift these sensations dramatically, yet humans' deep awareness of their environment, their attentiveness to detail, and their social bonds would become their greatest strengths in this quiet exploration of the past. We begin to understand a vital truth. Survival is never merely about enduring physical challenges. It is about observation, adaptation, and the cultivation of relationships with the land, with animals, and with each other. Our ancestors' lives were a meditation on these principles, a rhythm of learning, sharing, and moving carefully through a world that was as beautiful as it was unpredictable. And so, as we let our minds wander through forests and valleys of long ago, we can picture humans walking beside streams, tending fires, and teaching one another the subtle ways to thrive. We can imagine the quiet, persistent presence of life, continuing even as volcanic ash and winter chill waited somewhere beyond the horizon. There is something deeply comforting in this reflection. Life, even in the face of extraordinary challenges, finds a way to move forward, patiently, thoughtfully, and with quiet determination. Now, as we continue our gentle journey into the past, let us imagine a subtle shift in the world, a faint whisper on the wind, a distant tremor beneath the earth, a hint that change is approaching. The forests remain, the rivers glimmer, and humans continue their careful routines. Yet the earth itself is quietly preparing for something extraordinary. A volcano, far away, begins to stir, deep beneath the crust, and the ground hums with a silent, unseen energy. At first, the signs are small. Perhaps smoke rises on the horizon, a thin column curling into the sky. All animals behave strangely, moving away from their usual grazing grounds. Imagine watching a herd of deer pause suddenly. Is alert, bodies tense, sensing what humans cannot yet see. There is a subtle tension in the air, a sense that the ordinary patterns of life are about to shift. Humans, too, notice through intuition, observation, and experience. They may not understand the science of eruptions, of molten rock and gas, but they feel the urgency, the quiet call to pay attention, to prepare, and then the eruption begins in distant lands. Mountains release immense clouds of ash, fire, and gas into the atmosphere. The sky, once a calm, muted blue, becomes streaked with gray and bronze. Sunlight is dimmed, colors muted, and the warmth we take for granted softens, then wanes. Imagine standing outside, feeling the first delicate flakes of ash settling on your skin. A sensation both strange and unsettling. The air smells different now, the sharp, almost metallic, and every breath carries a reminder that the world has shifted. For humans 70,000 years ago, This moment was both terrifying and mysterious. The eruption was immense, more than they could fully comprehend. Yet life demanded action. Fires were tended, shelters reinforced, and the small groups that had always survived together now faced an invisible, enveloping threat. The volcanic ash would travel far, drifting across continents, subtly but powerfully changing the climate, dimming sunlight, cooling temperatures, and altering the rhythms of the seasons. We can imagine the practical concerns. Food sources became scarce, plants failed to grow, and animals migrated or perished. Water might taste different. Rivers could carry sediments from distant mountains, and hunting became more challenging as familiar routes and animal patterns shifted. Humans relied on every skill, every learned technique, every bit of knowledge about the land and its creatures to continue surviving, and yet, amidst these challenges, they persisted. They moved carefully, observed constantly, and found ingenious ways to adapt. But let us also consider the psychological world of these. Humans, how do you respond when the sky itself seems altered, when days grow dim, and the warmth of the sun is no longer constant? For our ancestors, the volcanic winter was not merely a physical event, it was a challenge to understanding, a moment that demanded resilience, curiosity, and courage. We can imagine someone sitting beside a fire, the ash settling gently round them, pondering what comes next. Perhaps they share stories, or quietly teach a child how to recognize edible plants, or how to track animals whose paths have changed. Every action is deliberate, every choice a step toward survival. In this time, humans' connection to each other becomes more essential than ever. Small groups huddle together, sharing warmth, food, and knowledge. Perhaps one person notices a pattern in the clouds, another recognizes the distant cry of a displaced animal, and together they form strategies that allow the group to endure. Communication, observation, and cooperation are their lifelines. And in these shared experiences, bonds are strengthened, trust deepens, and the resilience of the group is built not through force, but through careful attention, empathy, and the quiet rhythm of everyday life. The volcanic winter itself, though invisible at first, begins to shape every aspect of existence. Days grow cooler, nights longer and colder. Ash carried on the wind settles on plants, making familiar food sources unreliable. Humans rely on stored supplies, the knowledge of preserved foods, and perhaps even ingenious methods we might not fully understand today. Imagine children learning to crack nuts in ways their parents taught, or elders carefully checking the quality of dried meat. Every small detail is a thread in the intricate tapestry of survival, woven with patience, skill, and observation. Even amidst these challenges, there is a quiet beauty in the world. Ash-covered landscapes glimmer faintly in the dim sunlight. Rivers carry reflections of muted skies, and the sound of wind through bare or frost-covered trees creates a gentle, almost hypnotic rhythm. Humans moving slowly through these altered lands develop a heightened awareness, noticing details that might otherwise escape them: the subtle shift in animal tracks, the faint scent of smoke from a distant fire, or the way snow melts on dark stones. Every observation becomes precious, a tool not only for survival but for understanding the world. And as we think about these humans navigating this transformed environment, let us imagine the stories they might have shared. Perhaps they spoke of strange clouds, of nights colder than remembered, of animals behaving differently. Maybe they passed along lessons learned in moments of uncertainty: how to gather a particular route, how to read the signs of weather, how to keep a fire alive even when the wind is strong. These were not just survival tactics, they were the threads of culture, the whispers of knowledge handed from one generation to the next, connecting past and future in ways that resonate even today. We might also ponder the quiet moments of reflection that surely existed, sitting beside a fire, watching the soft glow of embers, listening to the occasional distant howl of an animal. Humans might have considered their place in a changing world. Perhaps questions rose. How will we enjoy this winter? What can we learn from the earth itself? How can we care for each other as the land shifts beneath our feet? These reflections, tender and introspective, are as vital as any action taken to secure food or warmth. They remind us that survival is not only physical, but mental and emotional, a gentle balance between practicality and contemplation. As we allow our imagination to linger in this moment, notice the duality of life, challenge and beauty coexisting, danger and care intertwined. Humans move through ash-covered landscapes, maintaining fires, teaching children, tending to the sick or injured, and quietly observing the world. Every small act, every mindful choice is a gesture of resilience. And in these gestures, we see the essence of what it means to endure, to continue, to inhabit a world that is always in flux. So, as our minds drift through this prehistoric scene, we can feel the subtle rhythm of life in a volcanic winter rhythm that is cautious, deliberate, and attentive. We imagine humans noticing the smallest details, learning from every observation, drawing strength from community, knowledge, and the quiet beauty of the transformed landscape. There is a calm perseverance here, a gentle reminder that even in moments of profound change, life continues with patience, care, and subtle grace. And with that, we have begun to glimpse the extraordinary challenge of the volcanic winter, a test that would shape not only the environment, but the very essence of human resilience. As we rest in this imagined world, we prepare ourselves to explore the deeper mysteries of this event, the stories, discoveries, and insights that reveal just how humans endured one of the most dramatic climate shifts in our history. Let us settle gently into the landscape of 70,000 years ago. A world both familiar and alien to us. The earth was vast. The land stretched endlessly in some regions, while rivers carved delicate patterns across the soil, winding toward distant seas. Forests swayed in the breeze, a tapestry of greens and browns, dotted with occasional bursts of color from flowering plants. Insects hummed softly, birds called to each other across the trees, and animals large and small moved with instinctive grace. Tracing paths etched into the land over countless generations, humans were part of this landscape, attentive observers of every nuance. Their eyes noticed the subtle changes in seasons, the frost that lingered a little longer in shaded valleys, the first shoots of spring grass, the way animals shifted their grazing patterns in anticipation of colder months. They were hunters and gatherers, careful, patient, and deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the earth. Life required attention to detail, yet also an understanding of patterns across time, which plants ripened when, which animals migrated where, and how to find water even when streams became shallow or frozen. Imagine walking through a cool morning mist with a small group of humans, their footsteps soft against damp earth. The faint scent of wet leaves mixes with the crispness of the air. Someone carries a bundle of gathered roots, while another checks a simple trap for small animals. Conversations are quiet, punctuated by the occasional gesture, a pointing finger toward the rustle in the underbrush, a whispered warning, a shared smile of recognition. These interactions, though simple, are rich with purpose and meaning, forming the web of connection that supports survival. The archaeological record provides us with glimpses of these lives. Tools, often made of stone, are remarkable in their precision. Sharp-edged blades, carefully shaped scrapers, and points for hunting spears demonstrate not only skill but an understanding of materials, ergonomics, and efficiency. Each artifact tells a story of hands shaping stone, of observation and trial, of patience and repetition. These tools were not just objects, they were extensions of human thought, tools of survival and imagination alike. Humans of this era also understood fire. It was more than warmth. It was a center for a community, for protection and for transformation round the fire. Stories were told, knowledge was passed down, and children learned through observation and imitation. Imagine a quiet evening, the amber glow of flames illuminating faces, the crackle of burning wood filling the air. Perhaps someone demonstrates how to prepare food, or how to fashion a tool from a branch, or how to read the tracks left by an animal in mud softened by rain. Fire connected humans to each other, to the land, and to the unfolding of time itself. The environment itself was both generous and demanding. Large mammals roamed the plains and forests, elephants, antelope, wild cattle and smaller creatures darted through underbrush. Providing both sustenance and challenges, humans observed carefully, learning the behavior of these animals over years, predicting patterns, and responding with strategies refined across generations. Imagine crouching quietly behind a ridge, waiting for a herd to appear, senses attuned to every sound, movement, and scent. Survival depended on patience, intuition, and cooperation. Climate, too, played a central role. This was a world in flux, with subtle changes over decades and centuries. The onset of a volcanic winter would have been sudden, but long before that, humans adapted to smaller shifts in temperature and rainfall. They understood, through lived experience, that nature is cyclical, that dry seasons would come, that rivers could swell or shrink, and that careful planning could mean the difference between scarcity and abundance. Their knowledge was practical, empirical, and deeply intuitive, grounded in observation rather than written record. We might also consider the social structures of these groups. Humans were not solitary creatures. They relied on connection, collaboration, and shared responsibility. Elders passed down knowledge, adults taught essential skills, and children learned by observing and imitating. Imagine a small group setting out at dawn, each person contributing their knowledge. One knows where the best edible plants grow, another how to track a deer, a third how to construct a shelter. Together, they navigate the world, surviving and thriving through cooperation. Yet life was not only practical, it was rich with curiosity and wonder. Humans noticed the play of sunlight on leaves, the ripple of water over rocks, the patterns of stars in the night sky. Perhaps they wondered about the cycles of life, the journey of animals, or the changing seasons. Even without written language, humans developed culture, traditions, and stories, weaving imagination into the fabric of survival. Every song, gesture, or carefully etched mark carried meaning, teaching lessons, preserving memory, and celebrating existence. And so, the stage was set. The world was alive, intricate, and fragile. Humans moved through it with care, observation, and connection. There lives a delicate balance between effort and awareness. The volcanic winter, waiting in the wings, would challenge this balance in ways unimaginable. But before that moment arrived, humans had already cultivated resilience, patience, and ingenuity, qualities that would sustain them through the darkest times. As we drift in thought through this prehistoric world, consider the delicate harmony humans maintained with their surroundings. Every choice mattered: what to eat, where to rest, when to move. Every observation was recorded in memory and practice, shaping the knowledge that would guide them through challenges yet to come. And in this quiet attentiveness, there is a rhythm that we can feel even today, a gentle reminder that survival is as much about awareness and connection as it is about action. So, as we linger in this calm, reflective landscape, let us imagine the slow passage of time. Days and nights unfold, seasons shift, rivers flow, and humans continue their careful routines. The air carries the subtle sense of plants and animals, the sound of water and wind, the warmth of fire and the occasional cry of an animal. Life is alive, present, and persistent, quietly preparing for the trials that lie ahead, and through this reflection, we begin to understand the extraordinary resilience of humans. Their capacity to observe, adapt, and endure in a world that is at once beautiful and unpredictable, as we continue to wander through the landscapes of 70,000 years ago. It helps to pause and consider the humans themselves, the people who moved across continents, who observed, adapted, and endured in an ever-changing world. They were our distant ancestors, Homo sapiens. Yet their lives were profoundly different from ours today. Without cities, roads, or written language, their understanding of the world came entirely from observation, experience, and the wisdom shared within small communities, imagine wide. Open plain stretching to the horizon, grasses swaying softly in the wind. A small group of humans moves cautiously across it, eyes scanning for both opportunities and dangers. They know the patterns of animals intimately, the migration of herds, the habits of predators, the timing of seasonal blooms. These people are not passive observers. They are active participants in their environment, shaping and being shaped by every interaction. Population distribution at this time was sparse compared to today. Small groups occupied different regions, often separated by mountains, rivers, or deserts. Communication between groups was limited, yet knowledge traveled in subtle ways through migration. Shared techniques, and perhaps even encounters at key resource sites. Imagine a group moving along the river, leaving behind faint traces of their presence. Footprints in mud, stone tools, the faint smoke of a fire. Another group, arriving weeks later, may notice these traces, learning indirectly from those who came before. In this way, knowledge moved across space and time, connecting humans even when they were physically distant. Survival strategies were deeply connected to the land. Humans relied on a mix of hunting, gathering, and careful observation. They followed the seasons, noting where fruits and nuts could be collected, where game animals would gather, and how water sources changed with temperature and rainfall. Imagine kneeling beside a stream, observing tiny ripples as fish dart beneath the surface, or crouching quietly near a herd of grazing animals, tracking their movements with patience and focus. Every observation was a lesson, every careful action a contribution to survival. The tools humans crafted reveal not only skill, but remarkable ingenuity. Sharp flint blades, bone points, and woodman implements show an intimate knowledge of materials and technique. Each tool served a purpose, yet also reflected adaptation to changing conditions. Imagine hands working slowly, shaping stone with deliberate care, testing edges, refining points. This was a process that required patience, attention, and practice, and it connected humans to the very essence of their environment. Tools were extensions of thought, ways to interact with the world in deliberate and creative ways. Fire, too, played a central role in survival. Beyond warmth, it was protection, a gathering point, and a way to transform food into nourishment. Round fires, humans shared stories and knowledge, teaching younger members the ways of the world. Perhaps one elder shows a child how to identify edible roots, or how to fashion a spear. These moments, small yet profound, ensured the continuity of knowledge, strengthening the bonds of community and the chances of survival during challenging times. Humans also developed strategies to cope with scarcity. Seasonal changes demanded foresight, the preservation of food, careful planning of hunting routes, and knowledge of alternative resources. Imagine a group collecting berries and nuts, drying and storing them carefully. understanding that winter, or in this case, a volcanic winter, might bring days without abundance. This preparation, combined with cooperation and shared responsibility, was crucial in a world where survival depended on both skill and foresight. Yet survival was not only about practicality. There was also curiosity, reflection, and imagination. Humans watched the stars, noticing patterns that would help predict seasons. They observed animal behavior, learned from the rhythms of nature, and perhaps even speculated about the forces beyond their understanding. These reflections shaped culture, forming the foundation of stories, traditions, and shared experiences that linked generations together. Even in a world without written records, humans developed memory, imagination, and creativity tools as vital as spears or fire for enduring challenges. Consider the sensory richness of this world. The faint scent of wet earth after rain, the crackle of leaves underfoot, the soft rustle of a predator moving through underbrush. The warmth of the sun filtered through ash-laden skies. Each sensation connected humans to their environment. This deep awareness of the world, cultivated over countless generations, was as essential as any tool or strategy. It allowed humans to read subtle signs, anticipate dangers, and find opportunities in even the most challenging landscapes. Social bonds were equally essential. Humans relied on cooperation, shared responsibilities, and mutual care. Elders guided, adults contributed labor, and children observed and learned. Imagine a quiet evening by the fire, the group sharing food and stories, teaching and reinforcing knowledge essential for survival. These interactions, gentle and intentional, reinforced connections, strengthened trust, and ensured the transmission of skills and culture across generations. In this way, social cohesion became a central pillar of survival. And so, as we drift through this quiet world, we begin to see the delicate balance humans maintained: awareness, skill, and social connection working together to meet the challenges of life. This was a world of constant observation, careful action, and reflective thought. Humans were not merely surviving, they were learning, adapting, and cultivating resilience in ways that echoed down through time. Before the volcanic winter swept across the land, humans had already honed the strategies, knowledge, and social cohesion that would allow them to endure extraordinary challenges. They were observers and participants, thinkers and doers, weaving together lives that were at once fragile and remarkably strong. And as we rest in this imagined landscape, we can sense the quiet rhythms of human existence, the careful movement across plains, the observation of subtle signs, the shared warmth of fire, the gentle continuity of life. As we continue our journey, let us shift our attention to the traces humans left behind, subtle imprints that have survived tens of thousands of years, whispering stories of a life both fragile and enduring. Imagine walking through a quiet valley, the earth soft beneath your feet, and noticing the faint impressions of human hands, footprints in mud, all the remnants of tools carefully fashioned from stone and bone. These fragments, preserved in the soul, are like messages from the past, offering glimpses into daily life and the quiet ingenuity that sustained our ancestors. Archaeologists have unearthed many such clues, each one a testament to human resilience. Stone tools, often small but carefully crafted, reveal extraordinary attention to detail. Scrapers, blades, and points were shaped not randomly, but with precision, reflecting not only the physical needs of hunting or preparing food, but also an understanding of materials and the forces required to shape them. Imagine a human crouched beside a riverbank, flint in hand, chipping patiently at the edge of a stone until it takes the perfect form. Each strike is deliberate, every fragment removed with care, every tool tested for function. In these simple acts, we see both practicality and a quiet form of artistry, beyond tools. There are signs of shelter and habitation. Caves, rock overhangs, and temporary structures offered protection from the elements, places where small groups could gather, rest, and share knowledge. Picture the flickering glow of a fire illuminating rough stone walls, the warmth radiating through the chill of a pre-winter evening. Perhaps a parent demonstrates to a child how to tend the fire, how to store food safely, or how to sharpen a tool. These spaces were more than survival sites, they were centers of learning, connection, and community. Environmental details provide additional context, helping us imagine the world as it once was. Rivers flowed, carrying life and nourishment. Forests stretched across valleys, sheltering animals and providing resources for humans. Plains opened wide, allowing for tracking and hunting. Each landscape offered both opportunity and challenge. Imagine moving quietly through tall grasses, listening to the faint rustle of creatures hidden from view, feeling the cool breeze on your skin, and noting the subtle signs left by passing animals. Humans developed an intimate knowledge of these rhythms, using observation to guide decisions about when to move, where to hunt, and how to gather food. Even seemingly small innovations had profound impacts. Humans learned to create fire not only for warmth, but to cook food, ward off predators, and manage the environment. They discovered methods of preserving food for lean periods, storing nuts and dried meat carefully for times when the land was less generous. Each of these adaptations reflects a deep understanding of cause and effect, of cycles in nature, and of the importance of foresight. Imagine the careful sorting of nuts, the slow drying of meat over smoke, each action deliberate, each step a lesson in survival. The archaeological record also hints at social structures and culture. Burial sites suggest respect for the deceased and awareness of continuity, while ornamentation and markings on stones hint at symbolic thinking, imagination, and communication beyond immediate survival. Perhaps a shell was strung into a necklace, a carved bone preserved as a keepsake, a pattern etched into stone to mark a significant event. These objects may seem small, even ordinary, but they reveal a capacity for reflection, creativity, and emotional depth. In these gestures, humans left traces of mind, memory, and meaning. Imagine the sensory richness of this world, preserved in the traces that survive. The smell of damp earth after rain, the faint aroma of a fire, the soft rustle of leaves, the warmth of the sun on stone, each detail matters. Humans relied on these sensations, noticing subtle changes that indicated weather, animal movement. Although growth of edible plants, every observation informed decisions, guided behavior, and contributed to survival. Life required attention, patience, and sensitivity, and humans cultivated these qualities day by day, generation by generation. As we consider these remnants, it becomes clear that humans were both resourceful and observant. They transformed challenges into opportunities through ingenuity, turning stone into tools, branches into shelters, and fire into a lifeline. They connected with one another, shared knowledge, and responded thoughtfully to the world around them. Imagine sitting quietly beside a fire in a small cave, listening to the soft murmur of companions, feeling the warmth radiate, and realizing that every gesture, every observation, every lesson passed down as a thread in the enduring fabric of human survival. And so, as we wander through this imagined landscape, we begin to understand the profound interplay between humans and their environment. The land was not simply a backdrop for survival, it was a teacher, a provider, and a constant companion. Humans learned to read its signs, to anticipate changes, and to act with patience and care. They were small in size but vast in attentiveness, moving through the world with a rhythm shaped by necessity, observation, and subtle creativity. This rhythm of life, delicate yet persistent, prepared humans for what was to come. even before the full force of the volcanic wind arrived. They had cultivated the tools, knowledge, and social cohesion needed to endure extraordinary challenges. In the traces left behind in stone, bone, and ash we glimpse a remarkable story of ingenuity, resilience, and quiet human brilliance, and as we rest in thought among these ancient traces, we can feel a sense of calm continuity. Life, though fragile, persists. Humans, attentive and adaptive, found ways to navigate a changing world. Their small, deliberate axe-crafting tools, tending fires, observing animals, sharing knowledge created a steady foundation that allowed them to endure and thrive, even in the face of events far beyond their control. As we continue our journey through the world of 70,000 years ago, let us pause to notice something delicate, almost imperceptible, the subtle signs of change in the environment. The sun still rises and sets, casting gentle light across forests, rivers, and plains. Yet there is a quiet shift in the air. Perhaps the morning mist lingers a little longer, or the wind carries a faint scent of ash from a distant eruption. Small changes in the patterns of nature hint at larger forces at work. Forces that will ripple across the landscape in ways humans are only beginning to sense, imagine. Standing beside a river, the water flowing steadily, reflecting muted sunlight, you notice that the fish are not as abundant as usual, or that certain plants bloom later than expected. Maybe a herd of animals passes by, moving in directions that seem unusual. These small deviations, easily overlooked by an untrained eye, are deeply significant to humans who depend on patterns for survival. They begin to sense that something is different, that the rhythm of life has shifted in subtle, but meaningful ways. Climate during this period was already variable. Ice ages and interglacial periods had shaped the Earth, creating cycles of cold and warmth, abundance and scarcity. Humans had learned to navigate these cycles through observation, memory, and shared knowledge. They understood the signs of approaching cold or drought, using them to plan migrations, store food, and adjust hunting strategies. But the volcanic winter introduced a new kind of uncertainty, one that would amplify the challenges they already faced, perhaps in the quiet moments of observation. Humans noticed small flakes of ash falling from the sky, dust carried from faraway eruptions. It might have seemed insignificant at first, a strange addition to the familiar air, a tiny inconvenience in daily life. Yet over time, these flakes accumulated, settling on plants, soil, and water. The world grew dimmer, cooler, and quieter. Imagine the soft crunch of ash underfoot, the faint metallic scent in the breeze, and the way sunlight diffused through a grey, muted sky. Even these small sensory details would have signaled a profound shift, a warning that required attention and adaptation. Early humans likely responded with observation and careful experimentation. They might have noticed that certain plants no longer thrived, or that water sources became murky and less reliable. Perhaps animal behaviors changed, deer moving to higher ground, predators shifting hunting territories, birds flying in unusual patterns. These were clues, subtle but crucial, that the environment was entering a new phase. Humans, attuned to these patterns, began to adjust their behaviors accordingly, gathering food differently, moving to more sheltered areas, and relying on stored resources more than before. At the same time, humans maintained their social cohesion. Small groups continued to share knowledge, pass alarm warnings, and teach strategies for survival. Imagine elders sitting by a fire, demonstrating how to protect food from ash, or showing children how to identify resilient plants. Perhaps they worked together to reinforce shelters, gather fuel, or track the movements of animals now displaced by the changing conditions. Each action was deliberate, each observation purposeful, reinforcing the connection between humans and the environment. The volcanic winter was not an immediate catastrophe, but a slow, pervasive challenge. Temperatures began to drop slightly. Seasons became less predictable and sunlight dimmed. Humans noticed changes in plant growth and animal behavior. Sensing that survival would require heightened attentiveness, flexibility, and cooperation. They had faced environmental challenges before, yet this event demanded a unique combination of skill, knowledge, and social support. It is striking to imagine the patience and care required in these moments. Humans observed the smallest details, the pattern of ash on leaves, the flow of water in streams, the migration of birds, and interpreted them as signals for survival. Perhaps they experimented with new food sources, discovered ways to adapt shelters to cooler conditions, or learned how to stretch limited resources over longer periods. Every small action contributed to resilience, forming a network of strategies that would sustain life through an extraordinary period of environmental stress. And yet, life continued with its quiet beauty. Rivers flowed, forests whispered in the wind, and animals moved through the land. Sometimes distant, sometimes near, humans, moving carefully, maintained their routines as much as possible. Blending observation with action, there is a sense of continuity here. A gentle rhythm that balances adaptation and perseverance. The world, though changing, remains alive, and humans remain active participants, responding with patience, insight, and a subtle kind of grace. As we reflect on these early signs of volcanic winter, we begin to understand the remarkable attentiveness of humans. They did not possess modern instruments, satellites, or scientific data, yet their survival depended on careful observation, accumulated knowledge, and intuitive understanding of natural patterns. Every small detail, ash on a leaf, the behavior of a herd, the flow of a stream, was a thread in a larger web of understanding that allowed humans to navigate uncertainty and maintain life in a precarious world. This is a world of gentle tension, where observation and patience become lifelines. Humans notice the smallest changes, interpret subtle signals, and act accordingly. Life continues quietly, with deliberate steps, careful choices, and the steady rhythm of survival. And as we drift through this scene, there is a sense of calm persistence, humans enduring, observing and adapting, preparing themselves for the harsher days to come, while still finding wonder and beauty in the world round them. The quiet reflection we can feel in this moment mirrors the experiences of those early humans. They moved with awareness, lived with intention, and nurtured connections with the land, with animals, and with each other. Every action was measured, thoughtful, and purposeful, forming a foundation for enduring one of the most challenging periods in human history, the volcanic winter that lay ahead. As we continue our gentle journey through the prehistoric world, let us linger on the remarkable ways humans responded to the subtle signals of change. The ash-laden skies were distant but growing closer in effect, the days slightly cooler, the sunlight muted. Humans, attuned to these nuances, began to adapt in ways both practical and profoundly creative. Their world was fragile, yet their ingenuity was resilient, guiding them through uncertainty with patience and care. One of the most vital strategies was movement. Humans observed the land and its resources, noting which areas remained productive and which were beginning to falter. Imagine a group crossing a rolling plain at dawn, mist curling round their feet, quietly navigating toward a forest where fruit and nuts were still abundant. These migrations were not random but deliberate, based on accumulated knowledge of geography, animal behavior, and seasonal patterns. Each step was carefully considered. Every decision weighed for safety, sustenance, and continuity. Migration was often a delicate balance. Moving too far could mean exhaustion or risk of encountering predators, moving to little could lead to scarcity of food. Humans navigated this balance with a combination of instinct, observation, and shared wisdom. Perhaps one member of the group noticed faint tracks of wood, or a shift in the wind indicating the approach of rain, and guided the others toward a more promising location. Every movement was a dialogue with the environment, a careful negotiation between opportunity and risk. Adaptation extended to tools and shelters as well. Stone blades were refined for efficiency, bone implements shaped to meet specific needs, and shelters were modified to provide better protection against cooler temperatures and ashfall. Imagine hands working patiently to reinforce a simple structure with branches, leaves, or animal hides, each placement considered to maximize warmth and safety. Humans were constantly experimenting, learning from small successes and failures, and passing those lessons along within the group. These innovations were modest in appearance but monumental in effect, increasing the chances of survival in an unpredictable world. Food preservation became especially critical. Humans discovered ways to store nuts, roots, and meat for longer periods, protecting their sustenance from spoilage, moisture, and contamination. Imagine a quiet morning spent sorting and drying food, each action deliberate, each technique the result of accumulated knowledge passed from elder to child. These routines, mundane yet essential, ensured that even when the land provided less, the group could endure. Every careful gesture was a thread in the intricate fabric of survival. Quietly reinforcing resilience, observation of animals remained central. Humans tracked herds, noted migration routes, and adapted hunting strategies to shifting behaviors. Perhaps a hunter crouched at the edge of a clearing, noticing subtle changes in tracks, movement, and scent. They understood that animals, like humans, responded to changes in climate and environment, and that survival required flexibility, attentiveness, and patience. Every encounter with the natural world became a lesson, every observation a guide for action. Cooperation within the group was equally vital. Humans relied on each other for warmth, protection, and knowledge. They shared the labor of gathering food, tending fires, and maintaining shelters. Perhaps an elder taught children how to recognize edible plants, while adults planned hunting expeditions or reinforced shelters. These interactions, gentle and deliberate, reinforced trust, social bonds, and collective survival strategies. Humans survived not only through individual skill but through the quiet strength of their communities. Imagination and foresight played subtle but essential roles. Humans likely speculated about weather patterns, considered alternative food sources, and developed new methods for navigating landscapes altered by ash and cooler temperatures. Perhaps they discovered that certain roots or seeds could withstand harsher conditions, or that particular animal behaviors indicated safe paths or fertile grounds. Every experiment, every observation, and every story passed along strengthened the group's ability to endure, forming a living repository of knowledge that was both practical and cultural. Even in the midst of challenge, humans found moments of reflection and connection. Round the fire, the group would gather not only for warmth and nourishment, but for conversation, storytelling, and teaching. Perhaps children listened intently as elders explained the movement of herds, the growth patterns of plants, or the significance of changes in the sky. These quiet moments nurtured continuity, reinforced community, and cultivated resilience, reminding us that human survival is as much about knowledge, observation, and connection as it is about food or shelter. As humans navigated these early stages of volcanic winter, their attention to detail, capacity for adaptation, and collaborative spirit became lifelines. Life was fragile, yet humans found ways to endure, responding to subtle environmental cues with patience and ingenuity. Imagine the rhythmic pace of their days, observing the land, gathering sustenance, maintaining fires, and sharing knowledge, all against a backdrop of ash-dimmed skies and cooler air. This rhythm, deliberate and mindful, was as essential to survival as any tool or weapon. And so, as we linger in this quiet, ancient landscape, we sense the extraordinary adaptability of humans. They were small in number, but immense in attentiveness. They observed carefully, moved wisely, innovated thoughtfully, and nurtured connections within their communities. Every small action, every patient observation, every shared story contributed to a network of strategies that allowed them to endure the challenges of a changing climate and the approaching volcanic W. In this reflection, there is a sense of calm admiration. Humans faced uncertainty not with panic, but with attentiveness, cooperation, and ingenuity. They adapted, observed, and persevered, finding balance within a world that was both beautiful and unpredictable. And as we rest within this imagined world, we can feel the quiet rhythm of life continuing, careful, deliberate, patient, and persistent. A testament to the enduring spirit of our ancestors. As we move gently through time, we begin to sense the full presence of the volcanic winter, its subtle yet profound influence stretching across landscapes and lives. The air grows cooler. The sky takes on a muted grey hue, and the familiar warmth of sunlight is softened, filtered through layers of ash and haze. Rivers still flow, forests still breathe, yet every element of the environment carries the quiet weight of change. Imagine walking through a misty forest, leaves damp beneath your feet, each step soft and deliberate, as if the land itself has slowed its pace in response to the altered sky. Humans, keen observers of patterns, notice these transformations immediately. The ash settles on plants, dimming the green vibrancy that once marked fertile grounds. Some edible plants fail to thrive, forcing careful foraging and creative problem-solving. Imagine reaching for roots in the softened earth, feeling the grit of ash mixed with soil, recognizing the subtle difference that might determine whether a meal is sufficient or meager. Each discovery, small though it may seem, carries profound significance. Animal behavior also shifts, providing clues to the changing world. Herds move differently, predators follow altered paths, and migratory birds adjust their timing. Humans watch, adapt, and learn. Perhaps someone kneels by a riverbank, studying tracks pressed into mud, noting which animals have moved toward more sheltered valleys or which are scarce altogether. Each observation informs decisions: where to hunt, when to move, which paths to follow, and how to allocate scarce resources. The volcanic winter is both silent and pervasive. Temperatures drop subtly but steadily. The days grow dimmer, and nights are colder. Fires are tended more carefully, shelters reinforced, and small groups huddle together for warmth and security. Imagine the comforting glow of embers in a carefully constructed hearth, the soft crackle of flames breaking the quiet of an ash-laden evening. Round the fire, humans share knowledge, teach the young, and nurture social bonds, understanding that cooperation is essential when the environment grows more demanding. Food scarcity becomes a pressing concern. Humans rely on stored provisions, resilient plants, and small animals that can survive in the altered climate. Perhaps they experiment with new foods, tasting roots, seeds, or mushrooms that were previously overlooked. Each new discovery requires care, patience, and cautious observation. Every meal, every choice, becomes an exercise in adaptation, a careful balance between sustenance and safety. The volcanic winter also changes the way humans move through the landscape. Migration paths may shift as familiar hunting grounds become less productive, forcing groups to travel farther or seek alternative territories. These journeys are deliberate, slow, and attentive. Guided by knowledge accumulated over generations, imagine a group walking through a foggy valley, observing the land for signs of shelter water, and food, every step measured. Every action intentional. Survival depends not only on physical endurance, but on observation, foresight, and collective wisdom. Even amidst these challenges, humans maintain their curiosity and resilience. They watch the altered patterns of the sun and stars, study animal behaviors, and explore alternative ways to thrive. Perhaps they notice that certain seeds sprout despite the ash-covered soil, or that small streams remain clear while others turn murky. Every observation contributes to a growing understanding of the new conditions, shaping strategies that ensure survival. The volcanic winter is not immediate devastation, but a slow, encompassing force, testing human patience, ingenuity, and cooperation. Humans respond with calm attentiveness, tending fires, reinforcing shelters, sharing food, and teaching vital skills. The rhythm of life continues, though subtly altered. Imagine sitting quietly in a dim forest clearing, the muted sounds of animals and wind round you, feeling the weight of ash in the air, yet sensing the steady pulse of human adaptation and resilience. And in this moment, we see the extraordinary capacity of humans to endure. They face an environment transformed by forces beyond their control, yet they persist through observation, cooperation, and careful innovation. Life slows but does not stop. It adapts, reshapes, and continues. Every small act gathering, storing, teaching, observing becomes a lifeline, a gesture of survival and a testament to human resilience. Even in the quiet stillness of this ash-muted world, there is a sense of wonder. Rivers flow, forests breathe, animals continue to move, and humans continue to learn. The volcanic winter, while challenging, does not extinguish life. Instead, it reshapes it, demanding attentiveness, creativity, and collaboration. Imagine the delicate balance maintained by these early humans, every observation and action tuned to the rhythms of a world in flux, every choice a step toward endurance. Every shared moment a thread connecting the group in trust and continuity. Through this reflection, we begin to understand the profound interplay between environment and human ingenuity. Life is fragile, yet humans endure through observation, adaptability, and cooperation. The volcanic winter may alter the land, dim the sunlight, and change the rhythm of seasons. Yet humans navigate these shifts with quiet skill, patient attention, and deliberate action. And as we drift through this prehistoric landscape, there is a calm reassurance in the resilience of life, in the steady persistence of humans, and in the enduring rhythm of adaptation that carries them through even the harshest of winters. As we continue to wander through the muted landscapes of the volcanic winter, it helps to focus on the quiet rhythms of daily life, the small, deliberate acts that sustained humans through uncertainty. Imagine a pale morning, the sky diffused with ash-gray light, the air crisp and faintly metallic. Humans move carefully across the land, aware of every sound, scent and texture. Each gesture, however ordinary it may seem, is purposeful and vital, forming the backbone of survival in this transformed world. A single morning might begin with the tending of fire. Ash has settled over much of the landscape, and maintaining warmth becomes essential. Imagine crouching by glowing embers, gently lifting embers with a stick, adding dry twigs, and watching the flames grow, casting a comforting light across faces lined with patience and care. Round the fire, someone might teach a younger member of the group to recognize signs of dryness in wood or two. Prepare kindling for the next day. Each instruction is practical, yet carries a deeper rhythm of knowledge passed down through observation and repetition. Gathering food requires both ingenuity and attentiveness. Some plants continue to grow despite the ash, while others become scarce. Humans learn to identify what remains edible, often experimenting with small portions to test their effects. Perhaps a group forages along a riverbank, gently brushing ash off leaves and roots, selecting items that can sustain them through the day. Every choice is informed by experience, memory, and subtle observation. The slight curl of a leaf, the resilience of a root in compacted soil, or the faint scent that hints at freshness. Hunting and tracking become exercises in patience and adaptability. Large mammals move differently. Under the influence of the volcanic winter, herds shifting to find food and shelter. Imagine a hunter crouched behind a ridge, observing the faint movement of a deer through fog-thickened forests, noting the tracks in softened earth, and anticipating its path with careful thought. Tools, sharpened and refined over years, become extensions of intentioned stone-tipped spears. Bone knives and simple snares, each chosen with deliberation. Every encounter with the wild is both challenge and lesson, teaching human subtlety, timing and restraint. Shelter is reinforced against cooler temperatures and ashfall. Simple structures are modified with branches, leaves, and animal hides, creating protection from the elements. Imagine gently layering materials over a lean-to, pressing down earth to stabilize walls, and arranging stones round a hearth to retain heat. These actions, though quiet and unassuming, reflect an extraordinary attentiveness to both the immediate needs of the group and the unpredictability of the environment. Every careful placement of materials is an act of foresight, each gesture contributing to comfort and survival. Daily life also includes moments of reflection and observation. Humans watch the sky, noting shifts in light and temperature, and study animal behavior for clues about the state of the world. Perhaps a child notices a bird flying in an unusual direction, or an elder senses subtle changes in wind patterns. Each observation, small and seemingly mundane, informs decisions, ensuring that the group remains aware of opportunities and risks alike. This attentiveness becomes a form of quiet wisdom, as essential as any tool or technique. Cooperation remains central to survival. Tasks are shared, and knowledge is passed gently from one generation to the next. Perhaps one adult gathers firewood while another prepares food, while children mimic these movements in small, careful ways round the fire. Stories may emerge, lessons about foraging, tracking, or enduring cold nights. These shared moments nurture social bonds, reinforce knowledge, and provide continuity, ensuring that even in hardship, the rhythm of life continues, even in the quiet of ash-muted mornings. Humans find subtle moments of wonder, the shimmer of frost on leaves, the glint of sunlight through suspended ash, or the movement of a herd across a distant plain becomes a reminder of beauty and resilience in a transformed world. These moments, though brief, offer a sense of connection and perspective, reinforcing the human capacity to observe, adapt, and find meaning even amidst challenge. And so life continues in deliberate, patient rhythms. Each day is a careful negotiation with the environment, observing, learning, adapting, sharing, and enduring. Humans navigate the subtle complexities of the volcanic winter through attentiveness, cooperation, and ingenuity. Every small act tending fire, gathering food, tracking animals, teaching a child becomes part of a broader tapestry of survival, a quiet testament to resilience, patience, and human ingenuity. As we rest within this imagined landscape, we can feel the gentle pulse of life. Deliberate, attentive, and interconnected, humans endure not through force or haste, but through subtle observation, thoughtful action, and a deep connection to the land and one another. Each small moment contributes to survival. Each careful choice reflects knowledge accumulated over generations, and every shared act reinforces the strength of the group. Through this quiet reflection, we sense the extraordinary patience and adaptability of our ancestors. The volcanic winter may have dimmed the sky, altered the rhythm of seasons, and changed the behavior of animals. Yet humans continued to move, observe, and thrive in subtle, profound ways in their daily routines. We glimpse the enduring spirit of life itself, deliberate, resilient, and quietly magnificent, as we linger in the muted landscape shaped by ash and cool winds. There is a moment of quiet reflection, a pause in the rhythm of life that allows us to sense both the fragility and resilience of early humans. The world has already shifted in subtle ways. Sunlight is softer, air carries a faint metallic tang, rivers flow with occasional murk, and animal behavior dances to a slightly altered tune. Humans have adapted, observed, and persevered, yet even in their careful attentiveness, there is a sense that greater changes are quietly approaching. Imagine standing on a gentle slope, the grey light of morning filtering through a thin layer of suspended ash. The air is crisp, yet carries the earthy scent of distant forests. Perhaps a group of humans pauses along a riverbank, gathering water for the day and sharing quiet conversation. Their movements are deliberate, their knowledge keen, and their attention finely tuned to the environment. Each leaf brushed aside, each footprint observed, and each sound noted contributes to a deep understanding of the land and knowledge that will be essential in the moments to come. Humans sense that the world has changed, yet life continues with its intricate rhythm. Fires are tended, shelters reinforced, food carefully stored and distributed, and the social bonds of the group strengthened through shared labor and quiet teaching. Perhaps elder watches a child attempt to fashion a tool, gently guiding their hands, passing along the skills that have endured for generations. In these small acts, we see the continuity of knowledge, the persistence of culture, and the careful cultivation of resilience, even as life flows. There are hints of the extraordinary forces at work beyond the immediate landscape, as we settle, in thin layers, almost imperceptible at first, yet persistent. Temperatures are cooler, seasons behave unpredictably, and subtle cues from plants and animals suggest that the balance of life is shifting. Humans respond with patience, observation, and careful experimentation, adjusting their routines and strategies in ways both gentle and profound. Every movement through the land, every interaction with animals or plants, every shared moment round the fire becomes a form of preparation, a quiet rehearsal for what lies ahead. The volcanic winter itself is still mostly and Xenophos approaching in silence, preparing to reshape landscapes and lives in ways humans can scarcely imagine. Yet even in this calm, we sense its presence. Perhaps distant rumblings have begun, faint and easily overlooked, or clouds of fine ash drift subtly from horizons far away. Humans notice these signs not as alarm, but as cues to increase attentiveness, to refine strategies, to gather knowledge, and to strengthen social bonds. In their quiet vigilance, they are already practicing resilience. In these moments of calm, we can reflect on the remarkable patience and adaptability of early humans. Life has slowed, not out of despair, but as a natural rhythm of attentiveness. Observing the land, interacting with animals, tending to food and shelter, sharing knowledge and courage act contributes to survival in a world that is both beautiful and uncertain. The subtle shifts in environment become opportunities for learning, growth, and quiet mastery, reinforcing the bonds between humans and the landscapes they inhabit. And as we drift through this gentle, ash-muted world, we can imagine the stillness that precedes the storm. Humans move with deliberate care, observing, adapting, and nurturing resilience in both themselves and their communities. Every small action, every careful observation, every shared moment round a fire strengthens the quiet rhythm of survival, preparing them for the extraordinary event that will define this era, the volcanic winter. This moment, the calm before the storm, offers a sense of continuity and reflection. Humans, attentive and resourceful, are ready to face the challenges ahead, guided by accumulated knowledge, careful observation, and the subtle ingenuity that has carried them through countless cycles of change. And as we linger in this quiet space, there is a sense of anticipation, of readiness, and of profound admiration for the resilience that lies at the heart of human survival. Here, at the threshold of the volcanic winter, we leave the familiar rhythms of daily life and prepare to enter the extraordinary story of the event itself, a story of ash, cold, adaptation, and endurance. Yet, even as the world changes, there is a steady heartbeat of life, a calm thread of human ingenuity, and a patient rhythm of observation and care that will guide our ancestors through the challenges to come. The world, once softly muted by subtle shifts in temperature and light, now begins to feel the first tremors of a profound change. Far across the land, beyond forests and rivers, a distant volcano has awakened. It speaks not in words, but in fire and smoke, in tremors that ripple faintly through the ground, and in the slow drift of ash across skies that were once clear. Imagine looking up at the horizon, the sun dimmed by a haze so fine it almost feels like mist, yet carries a weight that settles in the air, soft and persistent. Early humans notice these changes with careful attention. They are already attuned to patterns, yet this is unlike anything before. Ash falls gently at first, almost like soft snow, coating leaves, soil, and the surface of streams. It drifts down in the quiet of dawn, a pale, almost ghostly veil. Perhaps someone pauses to lift a hand, feeling the fine particles settling on skin. The faint scratchiness against lips and eyelashes, the air smells subtly metallic. A new scent layered over the familiar aromas of earth and water. Rivers begin to carry sediment, streams slow under the burden of fallen ash, and pools of water develop a muted grey sheen. Animals respond. Deer move to higher ground. Smaller creatures burrow for safety, and birds circle uncertainly above forests now dimmed and quiet. Humans, observing these shifts, realize that survival will now demand even greater attentiveness. Every footprint in the ash, every subtle change in behavior, every faint sound in the distance becomes a clue, a signal to guide decisions. Daily routines adjust slowly. Fires, once tending merely to warmth, now must be shielded from fine particles that cling stubbornly to wood and kindling. Shelters are reinforced, entrances narrowed, and paths through familiar terrain are reconsidered. Imagine carefully lifting leaves from the ground to cover a sleeping area, brushing ash from branches, and pressing soil against the base of a simple structure to create protection. Each act is deliberate, each movement measured, reflecting the growing understanding that life in this altered world requires both patience and ingenuity. Hunting and foraging take on new dimensions of challenge. Familiar plants are now coated in ash, some less edible, some toxic if ingested. Humans experiment carefully, tasting small portions, observing effects, and adjusting choices with meticulous care. Hunting strategies shift as animals move differently, avoiding ash-covered regions or seeking scarce food in unexpected places. Perhaps a small group follows a herd across a foggy plain, reading the subtle signs in tracks, sounds, and scent, moving slowly, deliberately, and with profound attentiveness. The volcanic winter, though only beginning, imposes subtle psychological pressures as well. The dimmed light, the constant presence of ash, and the quiet, pervasive change in the environment create a world that feels both familiar and unfamiliar. Humans respond not with panic, but with attentiveness, cooperation, and creativity. They rely on shared knowledge, passing tips about food, water, and shelter, teaching children how to move through ash-laden terrain safely, and reinforcing bonds that ensure both survival and continuity. Even in the midst of these changes, there are moments of quiet observation and wonder. The fine ash, drifting slowly from the sky, creates a strange beauty. Sunlight fractured into soft grey rays, landscapes rendered in muted tones, and forests that whisper more softly as their leaves absorb the dust. Humans notice these subtleties not only as aesthetic phenomena, but as indicators of the evolving environment. Every observation becomes a tool, every detail a key to understanding the new world around them, and so life adapts. Fires are managed with care, food is stored and rationed. Hunting paths adjusted and shelters reinforced. Humans move more deliberately, observe more keenly, and collaborate more closely. Their awareness, honed over generations, becomes a lifeline, helping them navigate a world increasingly defined by ash, cooler temperatures, and shifting animal behaviors. Every day is a careful dance with uncertainty, each moment infused with both practical necessity and quiet attentiveness. As we linger in this grey-lit world, there is a sense of calm endurance. Humans do not merely react, they observe, plan, and adapt with remarkable subtlety. They teach, share, and refine strategies, ensuring that even in a landscape altered by ash and cooler temperatures, the rhythm of life continues. Each step, each choice, and each careful observation is part of a larger, intricate story of survival, demonstrating the patience, ingenuity, and resilience of our ancestors. The arrival of ash is only the beginning. It heralds a world transformed, one that will test every aspect of human knowledge, skill, and social cohesion. Yet, even amidst this quiet uncertainty, humans continue to move, observe, and endure. Fires glow softly in ash-muted shelters, food is gathered with care, and small acts of teaching and cooperation strengthen the bonds that allow life to persist. In this delicate balance, we begin to glimpse the extraordinary resilience and attentiveness that define human survival. During the volcanic winter, as the volcanic winter deepens, the land itself seems to exhale a slower, heavier rhythm. The ash that once fell gently now drifts in denser layers, coating forests, plains, and riverbanks in a soft, grey blanket. Sunlight filters through the suspended particles, dimmed and diffused, casting everything in muted tones. Imagine walking through a forest where every leaf and branch carries a whisper of ash, every footstep pressing against the soft, powdery surface, and every breath tasting faintly metallic. Life has not stopped, it has shifted into a slower, more deliberate cadence. Humans adjust to this new rhythm with remarkable attentiveness. Fires are tended constantly, their flames protected from ash that threatens to smother warmth. Imagine carefully arranging twigs, fanning embers, and lifting stones to maintain heat that sustains not only the body but also the spirit. Shelter takes on renewed importance. Simple structures are reinforced with layers of leaves, mud, and hide, creating protection against cooler temperatures and the constant settling of ash. Each small modification is thoughtful, deliberate, and essential. Food becomes both a practical concern and an exercise in ingenuity. Some plants know, longer grow, while others survive under the ash. Humans experiment carefully, testing edible roots, resilient seeds, and small animals, observing how each sustains life. Perhaps a group kneels beside a shallow stream, removing ash from the water's surface, ensuring its purity, and sharing the task so that each member contributes to survival. Every careful action demonstrates an intimate understanding of the fragile balance between scarcity and nourishment. Animal behaviors continue to shift, demanding even greater observation. Deer and smaller mammals move in unusual patterns, avoiding ash-laden areas and seeking hidden refuges. Birds fly in new directions, while predators follow prey to unfamiliar territories. Humans watch and interpret these movements, tracking paths, anticipating animal behavior, and adapting hunting strategies with patience and foresight. Each encounter is an opportunity to learn. Each observation a lesson in survival. Daily life slows yet becomes richer in attention. Every step, gesture, and decision carries significance. Perhaps a young member of a group learns to brush ash from collected roots, or observes the careful placement of stones round a fire to maximize warmth. Each action, while seemingly ordinary, is a practice in resilience and skill, ensuring that life persists even as the world grows harsher. Human survival depends as much on these small, attentive acts as on larger strategies of hunting or migration. Social bonds strengthen under these conditions. Cooperation is not optional. It is vital. Groups share food, maintain shelters together, and teach each other techniques for enduring the ash and cold. Round a fire, elders might explain the subtle shifts in weather, or recount lessons about animal behavior under these unusual conditions. These quiet exchanges, repeated daily, nurture trust, transmit knowledge, and reinforce the rhythm of survival, even in the midst of challenge. Humans cultivate connection, understanding that together they are stronger than any individual alone. The landscape itself changes perceptibly. Rivers carry fine ash, altering their flow and clarity. Forests are muffled under a continuous grey veil, and mountains in the distance seem softened and distant, their outlines blurred. Humans observe these changes not with despair, but with careful analysis. They notice which areas retain food, where water remains clean, and which regions offer shelter from cold winds. Every observation informs decisions that increase the likelihood of survival. Amid this quiet, deliberate life, humans also maintain a sense of curiosity and imagination. Children watch birds navigating ash-laden skies. Elders interpret patterns in wind and water, and groups explore alternate food sources or new shelter locations. Every experiment and every observation strengthens the collective knowledge of the group, forming an evolving understanding of a world altered by forces beyond their control. Even as days grow colder and sunlight remains muted, life continues in deliberate, attentive rhythm. Humans rise, tend fires, gather food, observe animals, reinforce shelters, and share knowledge. Each movement and action becomes a thread in the larger tapestry of endurance, demonstrating extraordinary adaptability and quiet ingenuity. There is a steady pulse to life, slow yet resilient, careful yet determined, reflecting the patient, deliberate spirit of early humans. The intensification of the volcanic winter is not a story of immediate destruction, but of gradual, persistent challenge. Every ash-covered morning, every cold night, every subtle shift in plant or animal behavior demands attentiveness, cooperation, and adaptability. Humans navigate these challenges through observation, innovation, and shared knowledge, demonstrating a remarkable ability to endure, adjust, and thrive in a changing world. And so, in this ash-muted landscape, there is a quiet sense of resilience. Fires glow softly against the grey, shelters stand firm against wind and ash, and humans move with deliberate care, observing, learning, and cooperating. Life continues, slow and attentive, guided by subtle wisdom and patient adaptation, carrying forward the extraordinary story of human endurance through one of nature's most profound challenges. As the volcanic winter stretches on, life continues under a grey, ash-laden sky. Yet within this challenging landscape, humans find ways to endure, adapt, and even discover small triumphs. Imagine a quiet morning in a muted forest. Ash covers every branch, every leaf, every stone. But life persists. A small group carefully moves through the trees, observing tracks in the soft ash, listening for distant sounds, and planning each step with patient deliberation. Perhaps one morning, A hunter notices fresh tracks leading to a cluster of small animals, hares or rabbits that have survived by burrowing beneath ash-covered undergrowth. The hunter shares this discovery with others, and the group quietly sets traps, carefully and patiently, ensuring that they do not startle the creatures or waste valuable energy. Every success is modest but vital, a small victory that sustains both body and spirit. The thrill is not loud or dramatic, but deeply felt. A quiet reassurance that careful observation and teamwork bring reward even in a harsh world. Meanwhile, children learn by imitating elders, watching closely how they brush ash from edible roots, tend fires, or fashion tools from stone and bone. Imagine a child crouching beside a riverbank, carefully lifting mud-coated leaves to reveal edible plants underneath, guided gently by a parent or elder. Every careful action teaches lessons of patience, attentiveness, and resilience, even the small. Everyday tasks become profound exercises in survival, instilling skills that will last a lifetime. Water, essential to life, requires particular care during this time. Ash settles in streams and rivers, sometimes making them unsafe to drink. Humans learn to observe patterns in flow, clarity, and sediment, and devise ways to collect and purify water. Perhaps they scoop water from a sheltered pool, letting sediment settle, then slowly pour it through layers of plant fibers or sand. These methods may seem simple, but they reflect careful thought, patience, and a deep understanding of the environment, a quiet ingenuity born of necessity. Food scarcity often forces creativity. Some roots, seeds, or small animals that were once ignored become crucial. Humans experiment carefully, noting which items are edible and how to prepare them. Maybe a group discovers that certain tubers remain nutritious despite the ash-covered soil, or that small birds, caught carefully, provide sustenance without depleting populations. Every trial and success is a lesson, quietly celebrated and remembered for future need. The volcanic winter also challenges movement. Paths that were once familiar may become blocked by ash or altered terrain. Humans adjust their routes, exploring alternative passages and noting landmarks carefully to avoid disorientation. Perhaps a small group moves across a misty plain, observing the sun dimmed through ash, following distant mountains as guides. Every step is measured, every decision deliberate, each choice contributing to survival in a landscape both unpredictable and demanding. Even in these difficult conditions, moments of human connection shine brightly. Round a fire at night, the group shares stories of observations, lessons learned, or small victories of the day. Elders teach children to recognize edible plants, observe animal patterns, or fashion tools from materials round them. The act of sharing knowledge strengthens bonds, ensures continuity, and nurtures hope, a quiet reassurance that life can persist and even thrive through cooperation and careful attention. Animals themselves become companions in observation. Perhaps a dog-like canine or a trusted tracking partner accompanies humans, alerting them to danger, guiding them toward resources, or simply offering companionship in a harsh world. Every interaction reinforces the delicate relationship between humans and the natural world, highlighting the attentiveness and patience required to coexist, observe, and endure. Even the ash itself teaches lessons. Humans notice which areas accumulate more, which settle quickly, and which might indicate distant volcanic activity. By observing subtle patterns in wind, light, and sediment, humans develop strategies for movement, shelter, and resource gathering. Each observation adds to a growing tapestry of knowledge, passed quietly from one generation to the next, ensuring that survival is more than luck. It is a product of attentiveness, cooperation, and ingenuity. In this quiet, grey world, humans experience small victories constantly. A fire kept alight despite wind and ash, a safe meal found after careful foraging, a successful hunt using patience and observation all contribute to a growing confidence and rhythm. Life is slow, deliberate, and careful, but it is alive, full of ingenuity, connection, and quiet wonder, and so. Amid ash-muted mornings and chilly evenings, humans continue to endure. Each day brings challenges, yet also opportunities for learning, adaptation, and resilience. The volcanic winter may obscure sunlight and shift seasons, but it cannot extinguish human attentiveness, ingenuity, or cooperation. Every small act of survival, every shared lesson, every gentle triumph becomes a thread in the larger story of endurance. A quiet testament to the extraordinary capabilities of humans navigating a changing world. As we pause here, we feel the rhythm of life in this transformed landscape. Deliberate, attentive, and resilient. Humans endure through careful observation, adaptation, and connection, finding continuity and meaning even under ash-filled skies. These small victories, though subtle, illuminate the extraordinary human capacity to survive, thrive, and persist against challenges that test both body and spirit. As the volcanic winter stretches into weeks and months, the landscape itself becomes a living chronicle of transformation. Rivers carry ash-laden water, forests are muted beneath pale grey dust, and the rhythm of seasons feels subtly altered. Days are shorter, sunlight diffused and softened, and nights colder than memory recalls. Yet humans continue, adapting with patience, ingenuity, and quiet attentiveness. Life, though challenged, persists. Perhaps in a valley where the ash settles thickly, a group moves slowly, scanning the terrain for signs of resources. They notice the subtle resilience of certain plants, roots that pierce ash-covered soil, seeds that sprout despite harsh conditions, and hardy berries that cling to branches. Each observation informs decisions, helping the group find sustenance in a world that seems, at first glance, depleted. Humans do not merely react, they study, experiment, and refine strategies, turning adversity into knowledge. The volcanic winter also shapes the behavior of animals in unexpected ways. Herds of herbivores move to sheltered areas, predators follow cautiously, and smaller creatures burrow deeper. Humans watch these shifts with patience, learning where to find safe paths, reliable food sources, and shelter from both ash and cold. Perhaps a hunter notes the tracks of a herd that has moved closer to a river valley, adjusting the group's route to follow without disturbing the fragile balance of life around them. Every observation becomes part of a network of knowledge, woven slowly and carefully over time. Even the simplest acts gain new significance. Fires are tended not only for warmth, but as signals of presence, as tools to keep animals away, or as a means of cooking limited food sources. Shelters are modified constantly, reinforcing walls, adjusting openings to block ash-laden winds, layering leaves and hide for insulation. Every movement is deliberate, every adjustment informed by experience, observation, and collective wisdom. Life becomes a series of careful, attentive choices, each reinforcing the delicate balance of survival. Social structures deepen in importance. Cooperation is essential, not optional. Groups share tasks, distribute scarce food thoughtfully, and pass knowledge to younger members. Perhaps elders teach children how to recognize subtle patterns in animal behavior, or how to collect water safely from a murky stream. These quiet lessons, repeated daily, cultivate resilience, ensuring that knowledge endures and that the rhythm of life continues even as the environment grows increasingly challenging. Long-term environmental changes also become evident. Streams may shift course under the weight of ash. Forests thin as weaker trees fail to survive, and fertile plains are covered in a powdery blanket. Humans note these changes, learning which areas remain productive and which must be avoided. Perhaps a group discovers a sheltered valley where ash accumulation is thinner, plants grow despite cooler temperatures, and small animals find refuge. Knowledge of such microenvironments becomes essential for a long-term survival, despite the ongoing challenges. Humans find moments of wonder and reflection. Ash creates strange, muted light, rivers shimmer with sediment, and distant mountains appear softened, almost ethereal. Children watch birds navigating the ash-laden sky. Elders observe subtle shifts in wind and weather, and groups quietly explore alternate food sources. Every small observation strengthens knowledge, every shared story reinforces community, and every carefully executed task contributes to endurance. The persistence of adaptation is remarkable. Humans maintain a delicate rhythm, rising with the grey dawn, tending fires, gathering and preparing food, observing animal behaviors, reinforcing shelters, and sharing lessons. Life moves slowly but deliberately, each action contributing to survival in a landscape transformed by volcanic ash and cooler temperatures. Humans endure not by force, but through attentiveness, cooperation, and ingenuity, qualities that define their resilience. Even as months pass, humans continue to innovate. They experiment with storing food for longer periods, develop new techniques for purifying water, refine hunting strategies, and explore alternative shelter designs. Each success is small but cumulative, creating a network of knowledge that strengthens the group and ensures continuity. Survival becomes a quiet mastery of observation, patience, and subtle creativity, where every action, however ordinary, is infused with profound purpose. And so, amid ash-muted days and long, chilly nights, life persists. Humans endure, not merely as a reaction to environmental change, but through deliberate, thoughtful engagement with their world. Fires glow softly in shelters, small groups move carefully across altered terrain, and knowledge is passed steadily from one generation to the next. The volcanic winter reshapes landscapes and challenges bodies. Yet humans continue with remarkable patience, attentiveness, and ingenuity through this lens. We can appreciate the extraordinary resilience of early humans. Even as the environment is transformed and resources become scarce, humans adapt, observe, cooperate, and innovate. Each small victory a meal found is shelter reinforced. A water source purified is part of a larger tapestry of survival, and within this tapestry, life moves forward, quiet yet steady, deliberate yet resilient, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity even in the most challenging of times. As the volcanic winter slowly recedes from its peak, leaving behind a world subtly altered, humans begin to reflect, adapt, and consolidate the lessons learned. The ash still lingers in patches. Rivers carry traces of sediment, and the muted light casts a gentle grey over forests and valleys. Yet life continues, deliberate and attentive, each movement a careful negotiation with the changed landscape. This is a moment to pause, to observe, and to consider what the entrance of humans during this extraordinary period can teach us about resilience, adaptation, and ingenuity. Imagine a small group gathered round a carefully tended fire. The day's foraging has been modestly successful, and the warmth of the flames contrasts with the chill in the ash-muted air. Elders share observations, which areas still provide edible roots, how to track animals moving through altered forests, and where water remains reliable. Children watch intently, absorbing lessons not only of survival, but of patience, observation, and cooperation. Every story, every gesture, every piece of advice is part of a collective memory, an accumulated knowledge that strengthens the group and ensures continuity across generations. Humans of this era demonstrate a remarkable ability to translate experience into adaptation, though Volcanic winter is not a single catastrophic event, but a prolonged, subtle challenge. Testing every skill and instinct. Each day, small observations track ash, changes in plant growth, the behavior of birds and mammals inform crucial decisions. Perhaps a group notices that certain seeds sprout despite thick ash layers, or that specific animal pathways remain consistent. These insights, carefully observed and shared, become the foundation for strategies that ensure survival. The archaeological record tells a story that complements this imagined landscape. Evidence suggests that humans endured extreme cold, resource scarcity, and ash-laden environments through innovative tools, social cooperation and mobility. Stone tools, remnants of shelters, and food remains reveal patterns of resourcefulness. Humans adapted hunting techniques, stored food strategically, and reinforced shelters against the elements. Each artifact, while seemingly simple, is a testament to human ingenuity in the face of profound environmental change. Scientific studies offer additional insight into the broader implications of survival during a volcanic winter. Climatic data from ice cores, sediment layers, and volcanic deposits suggest that these events could lower global temperatures for years, influencing vegetation, animal populations, and human movement. Yet, despite these challenges, humans not only survived, they continued to thrive, demonstrating flexibility and resilience that would shape the trajectory of our species. Every subtle adaptation, from modified hunting strategies to careful observation of the environment, reflects a sophisticated understanding of ecological dynamics and survival priorities. Imagine walking through an ancient valley where ash still rests lightly on the ground, a place shaped by centuries of environmental change. Humans move deliberately, observing, adjusting, and experimenting. Perhaps they identify safe water sources, develop new foraging strategies, or refine tools to handle ash-covered resources. Every decision reflects accumulated knowledge, careful reasoning, and patient attention. A network of survival strategies built not from haste, but from observation, reflection, and careful action. Even the most ordinary moments become significant. A successful meal, a well-tended fire, a carefully constructed shelter act demonstrates resilience. Humans respond not only to immediate challenges, but to subtle, longer-term changes in climate, vegetation, and animal behavior. These adaptations are not random, but deliberate, informed by observation, experience, and shared knowledge. The quiet rhythm of life continues, a testament to the enduring interplay between environment, ingenuity, and cooperation. The volcanic winter also reshapes human imagination and social dynamics. Shared experience under extreme conditions strengthens bonds, fosters communication, and enhances problem-solving. Round fires, humans share lessons, exchange insights, and consolidate strategies. Children learn from elders, integrating survival skills with observation, curiosity, and creativity. Social cohesion becomes both a practical and cultural adaptation, ensuring that knowledge is transmitted and survival is possible across generations. As we reflect on this period, we begin to understand the profound implications for anthropology and archaeology. Survival in extreme conditions was not a matter of luck, it was a product of deliberate observation, careful experimentation, collaboration, and innovation. Humans endured because they paid attention to the smallest details, maintained social cohesion, and remained flexible in response to environmental change. Each survival strategy, each adaptation, contributes to a broader narrative of resilience that extends far beyond the volcanic winter itself. And so, in the quiet aftermath of ash-muted landscapes, we see the extraordinary patience, ingenuity, and resilience of early humans. Fires glow softly, shelters stand firm, food is gathered and prepared with care, and knowledge is shared across generations. Life moves slowly but deliberately, informed by experience, observation, and cooperation. Through these quiet acts, humans not only endure, but also learn and grow, leaving behind lessons that continue to resonate with us today. The volcanic winter may have challenged the limits of human endurance, but it also revealed the profound capabilities of our ancestors. By studying these patterns through both imagination and scientific evidence, we gain insight into how humans can persist, adapt, and thrive in even the most extraordinary circumstances. Every small victory, every careful observation, and every shared moment round the fire illuminates the enduring spirit of human resilience and the delicate balance of life in a transformed world. In the quiet aftermath of a volcanic winter, when ash has settled and muted light gradually returns, scientists and anthropologists look back to understand how humans managed to endure such extreme conditions. Imagine standing on a gentle slope, observing the traces of human activity preserved in the land, remnants of shelters, scattered tools and patterns of foraging. Each artifact tells a story, not of panic or despair, but of careful observation, adaptation, and persistent ingenuity. Researchers suggest that early humans survived by combining social cohesion with practical innovation. Small groups likely shared food, maintained shelters together, and passed knowledge between generations. Cooperation was not just a social preference, it was a lifeline. Round fires, elders could teach children to identify edible plants, track animal movements, or manage water sources. Each lesson, repeated across days and months, became a thread in the collective memory of survival, ensuring that the knowledge necessary to endure was preserved and strengthened over time. Archaeological evidence supports this careful adaptability. Sites reveal stone tools shaped for specific tasks, shelters reinforced against wind and ash, and evidence of stored food that could withstand harsh conditions. Even the simplest implements reflect thoughtful design: sharp points for hunting small animals, scrapers for preparing hides, or containers for carrying water and food. These tools were not merely functional, they represent the culmination of observation, experimentation, and refinement, showing that survival in extreme environments required both practical skill and careful reasoning. Scientific studies add another layer of understanding. Ice cores and sediment samples indicate that volcanic winters caused significant drops in global temperatures, sometimes lasting years. Vegetation patterns shifted, animal migration routes altered, and resources became scarce in many regions. Yet humans responded with flexibility. They altered hunting strategies, explored new areas for foraging, and adjusted their social organization to cope with scarcity. These adaptations were subtle, often gradual, and relied on continuous attention to the changing environment. One intriguing theory is that humans may have used microenvironments to their advantage. Sheltered valleys, riverbanks, and areas with thinner ash accumulation could provide slightly warmer temperatures, edible plants, or more accessible water. By observing these small variations, groups could focus their activities on areas that offered higher chances of survival. Imagine noticing a patch of hardy shrubs still producing berries, or a stream whose water remains relatively clear. Such discoveries, though small, could sustain a group through weeks or months of harsh conditions. The volcanic winter also likely influenced social structures and decision-making. Groups may have become more cohesive, prioritizing cooperation over competition. Communication, teaching, and shared labor would have been essential to survival. Children learned by watching and mimicking, while adults exchanged strategies, refining techniques over time. The ability to work together, share resources, and transmit knowledge was as critical as finding food or water, reinforcing the idea that social intelligence was a key component of human endurance. Moreover, Survival required a remarkable degree of observation and attentiveness. Humans had to read subtle cues in the environment, changes in animal behavior, shifts in wind patterns, variations in soil moisture, and signs of safe or dangerous areas. Every detail could influence decisions about where to forage, when to hunt, or how to construct a shelter. This constant attentiveness was not frantic or hurried, it was deliberate, reflective, and methodical, forming a rhythm of life that was both practical and profound. Another compelling perspective comes from the study of human flexibility and innovation. Some researchers propose that humans survive not only by adapting to existing resources, but also by creating new strategies. For instance, small inventions, careful observation of the behavior of animals, or experimentation with alternative food sources may have been crucial. Each discovery, each small success, was integrated into the group's collective knowledge, enhancing their ability to cope with prolonged environmental stress. This period also invites us to consider the cognitive and emotional dimensions of survival. Humans endured isolation, uncertainty, and scarcity, yet maintained social bonds, shared stories, and nurtured curiosity. The ability to imagine, plan, and communicate became as important as physical endurance. Round a fire, sharing observations or recounting successful strategies reinforced knowledge and strengthened group cohesion, even in the muted, ash-filled landscapes. Humans retained a quiet optimism, an attentiveness that bridged the challenges of the present with hopes for the future. By reflecting on these insights, we begin to see a broader picture of human resilience. Survival during the volcanic winter was not an act of luck or brute force. It was the product of careful observation, thoughtful experimentation, social cooperation, and creative problem-solving. Early humans demonstrate a profound capacity to adapt, to notice subtle patterns, and to translate experience into enduring knowledge. Each artifact, each trace of activity, each shared lesson contributes to our understanding of how humans navigated one of nature's most extraordinary challenges. And so, in this quiet contemplation, we are reminded that human survival is as much about mind and observation as it is about body. It is about noticing the smallest detail, sharing knowledge, cooperating in daily tasks, and remaining attentive to the rhythms of a changing environment. The volcanic winter may have tested every aspect of life, yet it also revealed the remarkable capacities of humans to endure, adapt, and thrive, leaving a legacy of resilience that continues to inspire us today. In the quiet aftermath of volcanic winters, the land holds secrets carefully preserved in layers of ash, stone, and soil. Archaeologists today uncover fragments of these stories, tools, bones, remnants of shelters, and traces of long-abandoned huts. Each piece, seemingly small, opens a window into the extraordinary resilience of early humans. Imagine brushing away layers of sediment to reveal a perfectly crafted stone scraper, a subtle trace of human presence, a whisper from tens of thousands of years ago. Evidence suggests that early humans were highly adaptable, capable of adjusting to extreme and rapidly changing conditions. Shelters were reinforced to withstand ash and cold, and food was stored carefully to survive periods of scarcity. Observations from modern archaeology show how groups exploited microenvironments, valleys sheltered from wind, riverbanks with accessible water, and areas with hardy plants to their advantage. These choices reflect keen observation and strategic thinking, a quiet intelligence that ensured survival in a harsh, ash-muted world. Some scientists propose fascinating hypotheses about the role of mobility in survival. Groups may have migrated seasonally or in response to shifting resources, following animals, water, or edible plants. Others may have remained in known territories, developing specialized strategies to endure prolonged environmental stress. Imagine the careful planning required, reading subtle environmental signs, tracking animal movements, conserving energy, and coordinating group decisions. Each choice, each measured step, becomes part of a larger pattern of survival, emphasizing not only adaptability but also foresight and social coordination. The archaeological record also hints at dietary innovation. Humans likely experimented with a wide range of plant and animal resources, adjusting their diets based on what remained accessible. Seeds, roots, small mammals, and birds may have replaced familiar staples as the ash-covered landscape altered ecosystems, evidence of small huts, stone grinding tools, and even remnants of charred plants suggest careful preparation and preservation. These discoveries reveal not just survival, but ingenuity, a deep attentiveness to the world as subtle signals, and a willingness to experiment and innovate under pressure. Consider the what-if scenarios these findings inspire. What if humans had not observed which plants could survive ash-laden soils? What if social cooperation had broken down under the strain of scarcity? What if small mistakes in tracking animals or storing water had led to failure? Each scenario highlights the delicate balance between success and disaster, and the extraordinary care, patience, and observation required to endure. Humans did not simply endure by chance. They navigated an intricate landscape of challenges with intelligence, creativity, and foresight, as the volcanic winter gradually faded, leaving traces of ash and subtle changes in the landscape. Archaeologists and scientists piece together the story of human survival. Imagine walking through a valley where tiny fragments of stone tools lie partially buried under fine gray sediment shelters once carefully constructed, now just impressions in the earth, and the remains of meals long past resting quietly in hidden nooks. Each artifact whispers a story, inviting us to imagine the careful, deliberate life of humans enduring a world reshaped by fire and cold. These remnants suggest humans adapted in ways both practical and extraordinary. Stone points shaped precisely for hunting small animals, scrapers designed to prepare hides, and rudimentary containers for water or food all hint at ingenuity and observation. Every object reflects a mind attentive to detail, a body practice in skill, and the social group that shared knowledge and strategies. Perhaps a hunter, observing animal tracks through ash, refined a spear tip over days to increase efficiency. Each small adjustment, each trial, contributed to the survival of the group. Archaeological sites also hint at mobility patterns. Humans may have moved seasonally or opportunistically, following animals or seeking areas less burdened by ash. What if groups discovered valleys where plants persisted despite the cooler climate, or streams where water remained drinkable? These small decisions, repeated across time and space, demonstrate that survival relied as much on careful observation and strategy as on physical endurance. The volcanic winter invites what-if reflections, prompting us to consider the fragility and resilience of human life. What if certain knowledge had been lost, techniques for identifying edible plants, methods for purifying water, or strategies for hunting ash-laden terrain? How fragile might survival have been without attentive observation, communication, and cooperation? These questions highlight the delicate interplay of knowledge, environment, and social cohesion that allowed humans to endure extreme conditions. Scientific evidence complements these archaeological hints. Ice cores, sediment layers, and volcanic deposits reveal the scope and intensity of volcanic winters, showing prolonged temperature drops, reduced sunlight, and disrupted ecosystems. Plants and animals responded in ways that demanded flexibility from human populations. Imagine a herd of herbivores avoiding open plains covered in ash, forcing hunters to rethink routes and strategies. Each environmental shift required adaptation, careful observation, and creative problem-solving. Anthropologists also consider the social and cognitive aspects of survival. Humans likely relied on cooperative networks, teaching, and shared problem-solving. Perhaps small groups experimented with food preservation, storage techniques, or innovative tools. Learning from trial and error, these adaptations would have been passed from one generation to the next, creating a cumulative body of knowledge that increased resilience. The ability to observe, communicate, and learn collectively becomes as vital as physical strength or hunting skill. Even subtle cultural behaviors could have played a role. Fire management, the selection of sheltered locations, and the careful tracking of seasonal changes all demonstrate foresight and planning. Imagine a group noticing that certain winds carry ash away from one valley, making it a safer camp, or observing that specific plants emerge from ash-covered soil earlier than expected. These small, attentive decisions reflect a sophisticated understanding of the environment. Honed through experience and shared observation, what-if scenarios also extend to imagination and innovation. Humans might have experimented with combining resources, testing alternative foods, or observing animal behavior for clues about survival. Perhaps a group noticed that certain birds consistently flew toward water sources, or that animal burrows offered small shelters from wind and ash. These observations, turned into practical strategies, illustrate the subtle creativity and ingenuity required to endure prolonged environmental stress. The lessons of human survival during a volcanic winter stretch beyond the past. They show us how attentive observation, social cohesion, flexibility, and careful experimentation can make the difference between life and death. Humans adapted not through luck, but through deliberate engagement with their environment, studying, experimenting, sharing knowledge, and responding thoughtfully to subtle changes. This intricate dance of observation, ingenuity, and cooperation illuminates the extraordinary resilience of our ancestors. Even in the quiet reflection of today, we can imagine the lives of those who endured ash-laden mornings, cold nights, and scarce resources. Every artifact, every trace of activity, every subtle adaptation is a testament to patience, observation, and creativity. Fires burned, shelters stood firm, tools were refined, and knowledge was passed carefully from one generation to the next. The volcanic winter may have tested humans in ways we can scarcely imagine, yet they persisted, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and insight. As we ponder these patterns, the story invites us to consider both the fragility and adaptability of life. What if humans had failed to observe carefully, to cooperate, or to innovate? The very survival of the species in these conditions depended on these qualities, and yet the evidence shows us that humans did endure through attentiveness, ingenuity, and a remarkable capacity for patience, reflection, and shared understanding. In this quiet, reflective space, we begin to appreciate the subtle, profound forces that shaped human endurance. Life continued not because the challenges were small, but because humans were remarkable observers, thinkers, and collaborators, every small victory finding food, purifying water, maintaining a fire became a thread in the larger tapestry of survival, illustrating that resilience often lies in the accumulation of careful, attentive acts repeated over time. As the volcanic winter slowly lifted and ash settled into the land, early humans faced a transformed world, while the immediate threat of falling temperatures and scarce resources began to ease. The adaptations developed during those months and years left a lasting mark. Imagine a quiet landscape where forests slowly regain their green, streams run clearer, and the muted light returns to a gentle warmth in this recovering world. The subtle lessons of survival continue to guide human behavior, shaping not only daily life but also the evolution of our species. Anthropologists suggest that the challenges of volcanic winters could have accelerated cognitive and social development. Humans who survived relied on careful observation, memory, planning, and cooperation. These skills, honed under extreme conditions, may have contributed to more complex problem-solving and stronger social bonds. Imagine a group strategizing over how to track animal herds, ration stored food, or construct more durable shelters. Each decision, each discussion, strengthens collective intelligence and refines the knowledge passed to future generations. Archaeological evidence supports this idea. Sets from periods following volcanic events often show more sophisticated tools and refined hunting techniques. Perhaps humans learned to fashion multi-purpose tools, combining cutting, scraping, and digging functions, or to develop methods for storing food that could survive unexpected scarcity. Every innovation, born from necessity, reflects a mind attuned to environmental cues and capable of planning beyond the immediate moment. Long-term environmental pressures also influenced social structures. Groups may have become more cooperative and flexible, prioritizing collective well-being over individual advantage. Elders taught younger members not only survival skills, but strategies for sharing, communication, and collaboration. Children learn through observation and practice, internalizing lessons about patience, attentiveness, and social cohesion. These subtle but profound shifts in social behavior would have shaped human communities for generations, reinforcing the value of collaboration in navigating challenging environments. The volcanic winter likely also influenced patterns of migration and settlement. Humans may have sought micro-environments, valleys, sheltered riverbanks, or areas with resilient plant life where survival was slightly easier. These movements, carefully observed and repeated over time, contributed to a broader understanding of geography, seasonal cycles, and resource distribution. Imagine a group navigating ash-muted forests, noting landmarks and water sources, and sharing this knowledge with neighboring groups. Such practices not only improved immediate survival, but also strengthened the cumulative knowledge of human populations. Evolutionary theory suggests that repeated exposure to environmental stresses can shape both behavior and biology. Humans who endured prolonged volcanic winters may have developed heightened observational skills, improved memory, and stronger social coordination. Even subtle physiological adaptations, such as more efficient energy use during scarce food periods, could have emerged over generations. Each challenge, each carefully navigated hardship, became an opportunity for growth, shaping the capacities that define modern humanity. The lessons of adaptation extend beyond survival. Humans learned to interpret subtle environmental signals, changes in animal behavior, soil conditions, weather patterns, and plant growth. Every observation informed practical decisions, enhancing both immediate survival and long-term resilience. Imagine a hunter noting how birds fly toward water sources during periods of ash-laden skies, or a gatherer identifying routes that survive ash-covered soil. These small insights, repeated and shared, created a cumulative knowledge system, forming the foundation of human ecological intelligence. Even storytelling and cultural memory may have roots in these experiences, sharing accounts of successful strategies, dangerous areas, or subtle environmental cues reinforced group cohesion and preserved essential knowledge. Round the fire, quiet stories of perseverance and ingenuity could serve both as practical guidance and moral encouragement, reminding everyone that survival required attentiveness, cooperation, and creativity in reflecting on these evolutionary and adaptive lessons. We see a profound interplay between environment, cognition, and social behavior. The volcanic winter was more than a climatic event, it was a crucible for human development. It demanded observation, innovation, and collaboration, rewarding those who were attentive, creative, and cooperative. In doing so, it shaped not just survival in the moment, but long-term patterns of human thought, behavior, and social organization. As we imagine life after the volcanic winter, we recognize a world transformed not only physically, but socially and cognitively. Humans emerge stronger in subtle ways, more observant, more cooperative, more inventive. Fires continue to glow softly in shelters, tools are refined, and knowledge is passed with care. Each small active entrance becomes part of a larger story, illustrating the extraordinary capacity of humans to adapt, innovate, and thrive even under extreme environmental stress. Through this lens, we appreciate that survival during the volcanic winter was not merely about facing immediate danger, it was a process of learning, adapting, and growing. Humans who navigated ash-covered landscapes, scarce resources, and cold temperatures contributed to a legacy of resilience, attentiveness, and cooperation that echoes through time. Every careful observation, every shared lesson, and every innovative adaptation became a thread in the ongoing story of human evolution and survival. As we continue to imagine the world reshaped by volcanic ash and cold, it becomes clear that human entrance during this period was extraordinary not in dramatic feats, but in patient observation, careful adaptation, and quiet cooperation. The volcanic winter tested every aspect of daily life, from finding food and water to maintaining warmth, shelter, and social cohesion. Yet early humans persisted, demonstrating capacities that would shape the trajectory of our species for millennia to come. Archaeological evidence reinforces this story of resilience. Shelters reinforced against wind and ash, tools refined for specific purposes, and careful storage of food all point to deliberate, attentive strategies. Imagine discovering a fragment of a stone scraper, worn from repeated use, or noticing impressions of a shelter foundation in hardened ash. Each artifact tells a quiet but powerful story. Humans observed their environment carefully, experimented thoughtfully, and learned from experience. Scientific studies complement these findings, highlighting the global and local effects of volcanic winters. Ice cores reveal prolonged cooling periods, sediment layers show shifts in vegetation, and fossil records suggest changes in animal behavior. All of these environmental shifts demanded that humans be flexible, resourceful, and socially cohesive, groups that could communicate, share knowledge, and respond collectively had higher chances of survival, demonstrating that intelligence and collaboration were as critical as physical skill. Anthropologists also emphasize the cognitive and social dimensions of survival. Humans relied on observation, memory, foresight, and planning, alongside cooperation, teaching, and cultural transmission. Children learn through imitation and guided practice. Elders passed on crucial knowledge, and groups shared strategies for coping with environmental uncertainty. This intricate social web allowed humans not only to survive immediate hardships, but also to build lasting adaptive knowledge for the generations that followed. What if scenarios further illuminate the fragility and strength of human life? What if critical knowledge had been lost? What if observation and communication had failed? These reflections remind us that survival depended on subtle but essential qualities: attentiveness, patience, adaptability, and cooperation. The volcanic winter was not merely a test of endurance, it was a catalyst for social, cognitive, and technological development, fostering the traits that define humanity today. The long-term implications are equally remarkable. Experiences during extreme climatic events likely contributed to the refinement of toolmaking, development of complex social behaviors, and enhanced ecological awareness. Humans learned to anticipate seasonal changes, observe patterns in animal behavior, and identify microenvironments that offered safety or sustenance. Each careful observation and adaptive strategy became part of the collective memory, influencing future survival in unpredictable landscapes. Even the smallest acts carried significance. Maintaining a fire, purifying water, identifying edible roots, tracking animal movement, each step demonstrated careful thought and deliberate action. Success relied not on brute strength, but on insight, patience, and cooperation. In this quiet rhythm of life, humans cultivated resilience that extended beyond immediate survival, shaping social structures, cognitive abilities, and cultural practices. Reflecting on these patterns, we see a profound lesson. Human resilience is often subtle, cumulative, and attentive. It emerges from observation, experimentation, cooperation, and the patient refinement of knowledge over time. Fires glow softly, shelters endure, food is shared and preserved, and knowledge is passed down, ensuring continuity across generations. Life persists not by chance, but through deliberate, careful engagement with the world. As the volcanic winter receded and the land slowly recovered, humans emerged shaped by the experience. Their tools, social practices, cognitive skills, and collective knowledge had all been strengthened by necessity. They had endured scarcity, cold, and ash-laden landscapes, yet they thrived through attentiveness, ingenuity, and cooperation. In this quiet reflection, we can appreciate the extraordinary capacities of our ancestors and the lessons they offer for understanding human resilience in any era. Through the lens of archaeology, anthropology, and scientific study, we glimpse a picture of humans who were patient, observant, collaborative, and adaptive. Survival during a volcanic winter was not only about overcoming immediate challenges, it was about cultivating a pattern of attentiveness, learning, and social cohesion that would carry forward into the long arc of human history. Each subtle adaptation, every shared lesson, and every careful observation becomes part of a timeless story of endurance, insight, and quiet ingenuity. And so, as we prepare to draw this chapter to a gentle close, we hold in our minds the image of humans moving deliberately through ash-muted forests, maintaining fires, observing animals, sharing knowledge, and adapting thoughtfully to a world profoundly changed. It is a story of resilience not measured by drama or spectacle, but by patience, cooperation, and the extraordinary capacity of humans to endure and thrive even under the harshest of circumstances. As the volcanic winter becomes a memory in our imagination, we can pause to reflect on the extraordinary story of human endurance. Picture a quiet forest, softened by the return of sunlight after months of ash-muted days. Streams glimmer gently, leaves shimmer under a pale glow, and the wind carries the subtle scent of soil, water, and regrowth. In this transformed landscape, we see the traces of humans who persevered not through force or haste, but through observation, patience, cooperation, and quiet ingenuity. The story of survival is made up of small, deliberate acts. A carefully tended fire warms a shelter, edible roots are gathered with thought and attention, water is purified and conserved, tools are refined with repeated care, animals are observed, patterns noted, and resources approached with a gentle, attentive hand. Each action, seemingly ordinary, contributes to the larger rhythm of life and endurance. In reflecting on these moments, we begin to understand how humans faced extraordinary challenges with extraordinary subtlety. Even in the harshest moments, humans relied on one another. Social bonds provided safety, shared knowledge, and reassurance. Elders guided the young, sharing insights about plants, animals, water, and shelter. Children learned by watching, imitating, and experimenting under careful supervision. Each lesson, each observation, each shared task strengthened the group's resilience. Cooperation and attentiveness were as crucial as any tool or fire. demonstrating that survival is as much about connection as it is about resourcefulness. Scientific and archaeological insights remind us of the broader picture. Evidence shows that humans endured prolonged cold, disrupted ecosystems, and scarce resources. They adapted tools, refined hunting techniques, and innovated strategies for storing food and finding water. They moved thoughtfully across altered landscapes, carefully observing subtle environmental cues. Each adaptation was deliberate, grounded in observation and experimentation, illustrating the remarkable flexibility and ingenuity of our ancestors. The volcanic winter also shaped cognition, social behavior, and cultural memory. Humans developed heightened attentiveness, planning skills, and cooperative strategies, shared stories, lessons, and practices ensured knowledge survived and strengthened future generations, even ordinary daily activities tracking animals, maintaining fires, preparing food were infused with meaning and purpose. These cumulative practices created a foundation for resilience that lasted far beyond the immediate crisis, as we imagine life emerging from ash-muted days into a slowly warming world. We can appreciate the quiet beauty of endurance. Humans persisted not through spectacle, but through patience, careful observation, and gentle creativity. Each small victory a safe meal, a protected shelter, a fire that keeps burning is a thread in the larger story of survival. Together, these threads weave a tapestry of resilience, innovation, and attentiveness that continues to resonate today. We might also reflect on our own lives through this lens. While the volcanic winter was an extreme event, it reminds us of the power of observation, patience, cooperation, and adaptability in facing challenges. Even small, careful actions, repeated and shared, can sustain life and nurture resilience, just as early humans navigated ash-filled forests and cold nights. We too can approach our challenges with quiet attentiveness and deliberate care. In this gentle reflection, we see humans not as victims of circumstance, but as observers, thinkers, and collaborators. They responded thoughtfully to a transformed world, learning from subtle cues, innovating solutions, and sharing knowledge across generations. Life moved deliberately, rhythmically, and attentively, an extraordinary testament to the quiet strength of the human spirit. And so, as we conclude this story, we hold the image of humans moving gently through ash-muted valleys, maintaining fires, observing wildlife, sharing knowledge, and adapting thoughtfully. Each small act of survival, every observation, and every lesson passed down becomes part of a vast, enduring story of resilience. The volcanic winter, though harsh and challenging, revealed the profound capacities of humans to endure, adapt, and thrive not with haste or spectacle, but with patience, cooperation, and attentive creativity. As the forest glows softly under returning sunlight, we allow ourselves to rest in the rhythm of life, quiet, deliberate, and enduring. We leave the story of the volcanic winter as a gentle reminder that resilience is often subtle, cumulative, and attentive. And with this reflection, we settle into the quiet understanding that humans, through patience, observation, and connection, can navigate even the most extraordinary challenges, leaving a legacy of strength, knowledge, and hope. As we linger in this imagined world, softened by returning light and gentle warmth, it is easy to feel the quiet rhythm of life that early humans experienced after the volcanic winter. Picture a valley where streams flow steadily again, leaves glint with dew, and the distant wind carries faint whispers of the past. In this serene landscape, the echoes of human perseverance remain not in monuments or dramatic battles, but in the subtle patterns of daily life, the shared attention, and the deliberate acts that carried people through extreme hardship. Imagine a small group gathering round a fire. The flames dance softly, illuminating faces focused on simple tasks, preparing a meal, mending a tool, or observing the faint tracks of animals passing nearby. Conversations are gentle. Stories are shared, and knowledge moves quietly from one generation to the next. Each act, though modest, represents a triumph of patience, observation, and cooperation, the very qualities that ensured survival during a time when the world itself seemed uncertain and unsteady. Even the environment seems to participate in this quiet recovery. Ash-covered soils begin to yield. New shoots, hardy plants re-emerge, and animals cautiously return to familiar pots. Humans move thoughtfully through this renewed landscape, mindful of its subtle shifts, appreciating both its dangers and its gifts. Each careful step, each attentive observation, becomes a dialogue between humans and their surroundings. A gentle acknowledgement that life continues best when approached with patience and care. The lessons of this era echo across time. Resilience is not always visible in grand gestures. Often it is found in the small, persistent actions repeated day after day. A fire kept alive. A tool repaired. A shared meal. A cautious observation of animal tracks. All of these moments accumulate into survival. And more than survival, they fostered understanding, connection, and knowledge that would shape human life for generations as we imagine these scenes. We also reflect on the qualities that made survival possible: attention to detail, cooperation, adaptability, and the gentle passing of knowledge. These are the enduring threads of human resilience. Just as early humans navigated the challenges of ash-covered landscapes, harsh temperatures, and scarce resources, we too can learn to approach difficulties with mindfulness, patience, and collaborative care. Even the simplest moments carry profound meaning. A stream reflecting the soft morning light, the quiet crackle of a fire, the careful placement of gathered plants. These are reminders of life's continuity. Humans who endured the volcanic winter noticed these details, responded thoughtfully, and found ways to thrive. They teach us that survival and flourishing often depend on observation, creativity, and attentiveness to both people and environment. As night falls in our imagined landscape, the fire glows steadily, shadows stretch across the valley, and a gentle hush settles over the land. Humans rest in their shelters, reflecting on the day's experiences, sharing stories, and preparing for tomorrow. There is a rhythm here, a deliberate, thoughtful pace that allows life to continue despite previous challenges. It is a rhythm that balances care, observation, and reflection, reminding us that endurance often lies in subtlety rather than spectacle. In this quiet meditation, we see the broader significance of human endurance. Survival was not merely about meeting immediate needs. It was about cultivating a careful relationship with the environment, sustaining social bonds, and passing knowledge along with intention and care. These quiet practices, repeated over time, created a resilient human presence capable of facing extraordinary challenges and thriving in the aftermath. And so, as the valley rests beneath a gentle sky, we leave our imagination there among fires that flicker softly, streams that whisper, and humans who endure through observation, creativity, and connection. The volcanic winter is behind them, yet its lessons remain: patience, attentiveness, cooperation, and subtle ingenuity are the quiet pillars of survival. Life continues, measured in small acts, shared knowledge, and deliberate care. With this thought, we allow ourselves to rest alongside them, carried by the soft rhythm of life, soothed by the gentle patterns of endurance and creativity. The story of human survival, though rooted in a distant past, resonates quietly within us, reminding us that resilience is patient, enduring, and intimately tied to both observation and care. And as the fire's glow dims and the valley grows still, we carry this calm understanding into sleep, letting the echoes of ancient perseverance lull us gently into rest. As we draw the story of the volcanic winter to a close, the landscape in our imagination is calm and softened, bathed in the quiet glow of a settling sun. Ash has faded into soul, Rivers flow smoothly, and the trees sway gently in the evening breeze. In this tranquil world, the humans who endured such extraordinary challenges move quietly through their environment, tending fires, preparing food, and sharing knowledge, every action deliberate. Attentive and calm, we can picture them gathering together as night falls. The soft crackle of fire punctuating the gentle rhythm of life. Conversations are low and steady, stories are shared with care, and lessons learned through hardship pass silently from one generation to the next. These moments, small and seemingly ordinary, form the heartbeat of survival, patient observation, careful planning, and cooperative action, all woven together into a tapestry of enduring resilience. Even the environment participates in this peaceful recovery. Birds softly call across the valleys, streams shimmer with reflected light, and plants slowly reclaim the earth. Humans notice these changes with attentiveness and curiosity, moving through the land with care, observing the patterns of nature, and adjusting gently to new circumstances. Every step is deliberate, every act intentional, a quiet dialogue between humans and their surroundings, the volcanic winter, harsh and challenging as it was, left behind more than a scarred landscape. It left lessons in attentiveness, patience, and cooperation. Survival was not about grand heroics, it was about cumulative, careful acts repeated over time. Each meal shared, tool refined, and observation made became part of a larger story, a story that echoes through millennia, reminding us that resilience often thrives in quiet, deliberate persistence rather than dramatic gesture. As we reflect on these lessons, it is easy to feel a sense of calm. Humans endured extreme cold, scarce resources, and ash-filled skies not merely by reacting, but by observing, adapting, and working together. They cultivated knowledge, strengthened social bonds, and innovated quietly, ensuring that both survival and learning continued through generations. There is a gentle wisdom in this. Even the smallest, most deliberate acts can have profound consequences over time. Imagine a night settling over the valley, stars appearing one by one in the darkening sky. The humans rest in shelters, fires glowing softly beside them. There is a rhythm to their lives, a steady, patient cadence of care, observation, and shared responsibility. And in this rhythm, life continues calm, deliberate, resilient. Every lesson learned, every observation made, every act of cooperation becomes a part of the enduring story of human persistence. We, too, can let ourselves rest in this quiet reflection. The story invites us to appreciate subtlety, patience, and attentive care in our own lives. Just as early humans navigated a world reshaped by fire and cold, we can approach challenges with calm observation, deliberate thought, and gentle cooperation. The echoes of their entrance remind us that resilience is often quiet, cumulative, and profoundly human. As the night deepens and the valley grows still, we allow our minds to settle alongside these humans of the past. Fires burn low, streams murmur softly, and the wind carries a whisper of continuity and calm. Life is measured in careful acts, attentive observation, and the gentle passing of knowledge lessons is relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. And so, with the soft glow of fire fading, the stars shimmering overhead, and the land at rest, we leave the story here. We carry with us the quiet understanding that humans endure not only through strength, but through patience, attentiveness, cooperation, and creativity. The volcanic winter has passed, yet its lessons remain. Life moves gently, deliberately, and resiliently, and in this rhythm, we find both calm and hope. May this story, slowly unfolding over time, lull the mind into rest, carrying the listener gently into sleep, comforted by the enduring strength, curiosity, and quiet ingenuity of humans who once navigated ash-muted valleys and cold, still skies.